The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Saturdays or Sundays, SOR Media, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Any rebroadcast, reproduction, or other use of this broadcast or podcast without the express written consent of SOR Media is strictly prohibited. Listener discretion is advised. Are you experienced? Then come own the night with us.
Little brother has taken control, shoveling dirt in every hole. Predators to condemn your soul, watching you and watching me. We're all
Station atop the mountains of British Columbia, live from SOR headquarters. This is Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
We live behind glass curtains and act like nothing's wrong. Soon you will belong.
You can follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, and on Spaced Out Radio on iTunes. You can follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio, and on Instagram at Dave Scott SOR, on Facebook at Spaced Out Radio Show, and on our YouTube channel, Spaced Out Radio.
Brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
Buckle up, space travelers. It's time to go for a ride on Spaced Out Radio with host Dave Scott.
I know you're out there somewhere. We've watched you for so long. We wait for you to fall. We will expose you all. I know you're out there somewhere watching me. Little brother wants to make headlines, be immortalized. Everyone's got an electric eye with the digital spies. They've watched you for so long. I know you're out there somewhere watching me.
It's Friday, July 20th, Saturday, July 21st, if you're on the East Coast or across the pond. And this, my friends, is Spaced Out Radio. Hope you had a great day and night. I am your host, Dave Scott, broadcasting to you live from the Great White North on top of the mountains of central British Columbia, right here at SOR headquarters. We are 150,000 strong nightly on the SOR radio network and Deep Talk Radio, and we welcome you here to tonight's show. And if you want to take a listen to our archives, they are free. Yes, free at our YouTube channel. Go to youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me the favor and hit the subscribe button. Our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. We made it to the weekend, everyone. And we end another week of fantastic programming on the mighty SOR. And tonight's story has the real possibility to scare the living hell out of you. You're going to want to stay tuned for this one. How many of you out there live in a haunted house? I know I do. How about you? Now, for most of us that have kindred spirits walking around, we would hope that they'd be courteous enough to at least do the dishes or fold some laundry, right? Although they never do. Now, I know I'm making a little bit of light of it because some people do have some serious problems in their homes or businesses, like Keith Linder, our guest tonight. All he did was the innocent task of purchasing a home in Bothell, Washington, to make a new family home. Boy, had he only known. Linder called the scientific establishment of parapsychology, who sent in a team to his house and set up motion detectors, recording equipment, etc. And man, did they catch evidence. The house has been exorcised twice, once by their reluctant local church and again by Father Roy, an Episcopalian, boy did I butcher that word, Episcopalian priest, who also exorcised Keith, just to be sure. Yeah, that didn't work out so well. We're going to bring Keith in here in a moment. Then at the bottom of hour number 3, since it's Friday, we have Faux News Friday on the Encounter Online. Keith Linder, welcome to Spaced Out Radio tonight for your first time. Thank you so much for sharing your incredible story with us. How are you?
Pretty good, Dave. Thanks for having me on this Friday. Doing pretty good. Week's over. Been kind of hectic, but I'm hanging in there.
Yeah, me too, man. This has been one of the heaviest weeks of my life. And for my listeners, I just want to let you know, on Monday night, I will be taking the night off. I have to drive down to the coast. And if you haven't heard, and if you're just listening in for the first time, my 29-year-old nephew passed away. And him and I were very, very, very close. And so today has been a very hard day. I finally cracked. And I got to tell you, I'm going to be taking Monday night off. Tessa will be here, and I probably will be taking next Friday off for the SOR Roundtable. Tessa will host that because I believe we're going to be doing a public memorial for him at that time. Sorry about that, Keith. I had forgotten to get that in, and I felt I probably should. Let's learn a little bit about you. What did you know, Keith, about the paranormal before you bought the house from hell?
Good question. I probably knew next to nothing about the paranormal. My scariest movie ever, I don't know if that's even paranormal, is the movie Jeepers Creepers 1, the first one. And, like most people, I tend to like a scary movie every now and then, especially around Halloween time. But as far as paranormal activity, I knew next to nothing.
So besides Halloween movies, and, we all like to get scared at that time or tell scary stories around the fireplace, you had never had an experience, you'd never had anything weird happen in your life?
Nothing weird, nothing unusual, no question marks in chapters of my life, no Ouija boards, no seances, no... I've been to a lot of parties in my life, but never one to where, hey, let's pull out a Ouija board, or hey, let's light some candles and sing Bloody Mary. Nothing like that. So, no, nothing.
Religious-wise, how did you grow up?
I grew up in the church. I'm originally from Texas, so I grew up in a Southern Baptist church. We went to church on Sunday. We were very rooted spiritually. And I consider myself, even right now, a Christian. And I don't wear my religion on my sleeves per se, but I do like to believe I'm grounded in the sense, and just carry a moral compass of, treat everybody like I want to be treated.
And I think that's very fair. So basically, you had a normal, everyday life, a nice, happily boring life, the way society says that you should take it. You had a career. You had a great girlfriend going on. Take us to 2012 when you and the girlfriend decided to start house hunting. Yeah,
what sparked our house hunting, me and Tina, is we'd already been together 2 years. And I had recently, before getting this house, I had taken a job promotion, career transition. I'm in IT, and I've taken a management role. And going on our 2-year, next to 3-year anniversary, we just sort of had the eureka idea of, hey, let's take the relationship to the next level. We can save a lot of bills living under one roof. And we've been together 2 years. I know you know me, making a little bit more money now. Let's try to move in again. Let's try that experiment of seeing how we live together under one roof. And so, yeah, we began house hunting actually about 2 to 3 months before we actually moved in the house. We found the house probably February, if not March of that same year of 2012. Emailed the homeowner because we were very interested in it. And he told us it was still occupied. He had just put a notice out because he wanted to start fielding people early. But he would contact us around April when he was ready to show the house, which he did. And, of course, we saw the house back in April, and then we moved in May 1st after qualifying for the house. And, yeah, it was all downhill from there.
Well, before we get into how it started going downhill, I mean, for everybody who has purchased a home, there has to be some sort of excitement that goes along with that. To be a first-time homeowner, or even if you're buying your fifth or sixth home, there's an excitement about it that you have this new place to live. And, I mean, you had to be so excited about this.
Yeah, we were excited because, number one, 2-year, been together. We're moving in together. I haven't lived with anybody for a long time. And this is a nice house, nice neighborhood. Job promotion, and you're right, you move into a house, you're sort of on a house high. It was a lovely home. We both sort of fell in love with it together right away. So we had good vibes about the house. We had good vibes about our decision to move in together, and we had good vibes about the house in general. And like most people, yeah, you move into a house, the first thing you want to do is get acclimated and bond with your house. You start laying out rooms and start visualizing, oh, this is going to be lovely for house parties. This is going to be lovely for family get-together, for barbecues, for social events, or if I just want to lounge and watch football, I got my own little man cave. And she's got an excellent kitchen, Tina. She's got a huge closet, double bathroom. So, yeah, we were very eager and excited upon moving in.
Initially, I mean, when we first get into the homeowners market, for most of us, we just can't afford that $300,000 house or that $500,000 house or more. What made this house, when you started looking for it, what made it look like home from the outside? And when you started going in, what made it feel like home?
For us, because we found the house on Craigslist, and for us, what made it stick out, and we both fell in love with it instantly, was how spacious it was. It was a 4-bedroom house, 2.5 bath, front yard, backyard, double garage. It was only 2 of us, so we had 3 extra bedrooms. And our idea was we want to bring family. I have family abroad. Tina has family abroad. We like to host parties, and at the night ends, people have the option of sleeping over, staying over. So we had all those ideas and more about why we want this house. And also, it was a relatively new house. I mean, this house was built in 2005. We moved in 2012. The neighborhood was relatively young, and the neighbors were all young, first home starters, first home buyers, sort of in a similar situation as me and Tina. Nobody's kid is above 5 years old. Everybody's got a new home, and everybody's sort of feeling excited about the neighborhood, and it was very new.
Beautiful area. Beautiful, driving distance to Seattle, not very far, living in the suburbs. I mean, just everything seemed to go perfect. Tell us about moving day.
Moving day was very interesting because, keep in mind, when we went May 1st, actually, it was May 1st when we went to go get the keys to the house, sign the papers. You got to meet the landlord again. You got to sign papers. And so he leaves, and now it's just me and Tina in a huge empty house that has no power. It's just empty. Nothing's switched over yet. And we're just sitting, talking, me and Tina, once again, getting the lay of the land. And out of the blue, we hear a kid cough. And it was very interesting because me and Tina just lollygagged. We're just talking, and something interrupts us to the point that we both stopped talking, and we said it at the same time while looking at each other. Was that a kid cough? And it sounded like it came from upstairs. It's a 2-story home. and it sounded like it came from one of the bedroom upstairs. This is May 1st. We haven't even moved in yet. We just got the keys to the house maybe an hour or so ago. And I think we must have discussed it briefly, but we thought, well, there's nobody here. That had to have come from outside, because you know how empty houses are. The noise seems to bounce off walls, and you sort of just deduce it to that. You just rule it out to that has to be what it has to be from outside. However, when we left, there was nobody outside. But fast forward to 2 weeks when I actually moved in, when we start moving in, that's where I started noticing items missing. And the first thing I noticed missing for me was my extra set of car keys. And these are car keys that I keep stowed and tucked away. I've never used them in the history of owning them. But when I went to go retrieve something else in the compartment that the keys were in, I noticed the keys were gone. And I'm like, that's weird, because I hand carried this compartment from my old house to this house. It's not like I gave this box to the movers and they brought it over. But the key was gone. And I don't even think I looked for it that much in the new house, because there's really nowhere to look for it. The house is still new. But a few days later, Tina starts noticing her jewelry is missing. Trinkets like earrings, bracelets, rings, and whatnot are missing. And we both started noticing a couple weeks after that our silverware missing. I mean, we found ourselves, searching for silverware around dinner time. I get up in the morning, I want a bowl of cereal. I got my bowl, I'm looking for a spoon, and lo and behold, there are no spoons in the drawer, so therefore I got to go to the dishwasher. And I'm constantly finding myself going to the dishwasher to retrieve silverware. And then one day, Tina bursts out the same thing. What's happening to all our silverware? And then that's when we were sort of, that's weird. But once again, we're not screaming ghosts or poltergeist or spirit. We sincerely thought, we must have lost it during the moving. That has to be the logical, because you move, you lose things, the movers lose stuff, and okay, whatever. But yeah, the first couple of weeks of moving in was the disappearing of objects.
So here you are, no spoons to eat with, having to drink your cereal in the morning, or now have to go to Dunkin' Donuts, which, since you don't have Tim Hortons, I feel sorry for you.
Yeah.
And, and just trying to, get your everyday life. So when this started happening, what was your first impression? Did you think someone was breaking into the house and just, maybe pestering the brand new neighbor? Did you think maybe there was, mice or raccoons or squirrels or something that were embedded and had hiding spots? What's going through your mind at this time, for you and Tina?
For the missing stuff, we honestly thought that, okay, we must have lost this during the move, even though it didn't quite make sense of car keys, Tina's jewelry, silverware, and so you just think, okay, that has to be the logical explanation. We lost it during the move, and so we just ruled that out. The interesting thing about Bothell, where the house is at, I mean, it is kind of woodsy, it is kind of foresty, and you are sort of in the middle of nature, if you will. But things start taking a turn of a different prognosis, if you will, once items start appearing that neither of us owned. And you're right, when we started finding kid toys in the home, mind you, we have no kids, and these are infant toys, toddler toys. And these toys are appearing on kitchen counter, kitchen table, staircase, and countertops. So they're appearing wide open. They're not behind a washing machine or dryer or the ventilation. And that, at that point, I sort of entertained the thought of, okay, maybe this is prank or weird or something, because we have no children, we have no kids, and at that time we didn't have the ADT security installed. That's going to come later. But yeah, you don't really know where to take that except to think of, okay, obviously, because we mostly find these items when we wake up in the morning. You go to sleep, wake up, go to work, and there they are plain as day. So you're obviously thinking, okay, let's change the locks. And we did. You get the new keys to your house. You want to change the lock because you don't know what the current keys, where they've been. So we made an urgency to change the keys to front door, garage door, and back door.
I got to know, because I got to tell you point blank, I have a trickster spirit in my house right now that has been emulating and mimicking my 5-year-old son. I've caught it twice. And both times I was on the phone, and both people at different times heard it on the other side. Once we heard my son laugh upstairs, and my son happened to be a 10-minute drive away at preschool. And the second time, my son happened to be upstairs with the family, and I heard his little fist knock at the door, probably, and I thought he was trying to get my attention that it was dinner time. So I am familiar with, having a young spirit or possibly a trickster spirit in the house, because like I said, I got one right now. So when you started seeing the toys appear, what kind of toys were appearing, and where did you think they were coming from?
These toys were, they were boy toys. There were cars, Hot Wheel cars. Majority of them were just automobile, toddler-like toys. A few were, and this is weird, toy spiders. I never had a toy spider, but toy spiders. And it's almost like you would find these toys in a Cracker Jack box. That's how small they are. That's the only way I think they would ever come from. But yeah, they were, most of the toys I would say would have to be, boy toys. They were nothing like a doll or anything that would remotely make me suggest these were for a female toddler. But where they were coming from, we didn't know. It was one of those things. You live in your life, you're trying to get to work, you're trying to stay out of traffic. You see a toy on the counter or in your staircase, you pick it up, you're like, oh, that's interesting, and literally you mentally toss it over your shoulder. It's like finding a snail in your pad, right? You mentally toss it over your shoulder, except with the toys, I'll put it on the chimney, or I'll put it on the dresser drawer and say, when I come home tonight, let me reevaluate that. But there's life that supersedes that. So all of a sudden you just find yourself in week 2, week 3 with a toy collection, but you don't really dig deep as to, okay, why do I have a toy collection? And that's a very interesting mental concept or pattern, because keep in mind, we're totally disavowing everything. We're nonchalant. We're shrugging it off. We're trying to come up with a logical explanation. And you're right. The first thing we thought, just to fast forward a little bit, is maybe a child spirit. But there's something else that's going to happen that sort of, to me, and I put this in my book, of the spirits were getting tired and bored of us shrugging everything off. They were really like, okay, these guys are never going to figure it out. We're going to have to wrench it up a notch a little bit. So, okay, it's game on. And once that revelation came, then, yeah, it's all out the window now, yeah.
So you're getting this collection of toys. Did you decide to start looking in every corner of the house to see where these may be coming from? Maybe I'm not sure if the house had a basement. It probably did have an attic.
Yeah, it had a crawl space. It had a semblance of an attic. But no, I never went searching. I think me and Tina might have combed through all the rooms. Some of the rooms, you could tell from the previous tenant, this was the child room, just by the pattern and the paint on the wall. So you would kind of go in that room where you now got a bed. I had a guest bedroom now. I got a guest bed. And sort of look around and try to see, okay, did any previous tenant leave something behind? But I mean, the house was empty. I mean, virtually empty when we moved in. And like I said, these things are out in the open. They're not really. I'm not finding them behind the refrigerator or hard to reach places. It's almost like they're being put in our path purposely for us to find them, and for me and Tina to have the discussion, because we would have a discussion. If I find a toy, hey Tina, come here, look at this, or hey Key, look at this. I'm like, what you got? Oh, spider. Where'd you find that at? In our doorway. I'm like, well, I just came through the doorway. There was no spider there. So you're having those discussions out loud with your partner, but the conclusion is it's just weird. You know, that's what we would leave like, well, that's weird. Yeah.
Keith, I can see at the beginning this kind of being, you know, eerily funny where, like you said, it's weird and you're trying to put the puzzle pieces together. But as this wore on and the experiences started to add up more and more, how much stress, before we get into everything that happened in the household, how much stress did this actually cause on you and Tina? Because I can't see this being something normal, and I could see a lot of stress building up. Would I be correct on that?
Honestly, it wasn't stressful for us at this stage. I can't tell you how many times we would laugh, if not sometimes shrug it off. Because going back to the missing silverware, these were primarily Tina's silverware. I mean, I was living by myself, so I just had one knife, one fork, one spoon. That's just all I had. But so Tina came with all these gazillion silverware, so she had a stake in her silverware missing. And there were times when we were talking, she was like, "Are you throwing my silverware away? You know, you scrape your food in the trash can. Are you accidentally putting silverware in the trash can too?" And I'm swearing to her, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not." But at the same time, silverware is disappearing, and it's logical to ask your partner, because there's only two people living in the house, "Hey, by accident, are you just being careless when you tossed out, you know, your plate or your trash?" And I would tell her, "No, I'm not. No, I'm not. No, I'm not." So, yeah, but I would say very, lighthearted at that stage, yeah.
So after the toys started, you obviously start talking to people about it. This starts to become a little bit of a conversation piece. What were the people around you saying as you discussed it? Or were you two private enough to just kind of keep this to yourselves and say, you know, let's just chill out about this. Let's just relax. And, you know, we don't want people to think we're weird here.
Yeah, that's interesting, because we did not tell our friends about the missing items and the appearance of items, because we still didn't know, and we didn't know what to make of it. The likely suspect at that time, and this is just pure theory, is this has got to be some sort of practical joke. However, I don't understand or can even remotely see how somebody could pull this off. I mean, if I was to come home and find a toy in my house, I could easily say, somebody was here while we were gone. It's hard for me to understand and ascertain somebody coming in the house while we're asleep. Even without the ADT security system I had it at that time, I just find that hard. I mean, that's a real big leap to say somebody's going to come in. I mean, you have to really feel comfortable and, number one, know we're really sound asleep to even attempt something, like, let alone exit the premises as well. And some of these items were found upstairs. We just kept it amongst ourselves. The cat's not out the bag socially to our friends yet.
The reactions?
The reactions to our friends?
Yeah.
None right now. No reaction, because we haven't told them about that. We haven't told them about it yet.
Right. So at this point, what do you think is going on? Toys, cutlery? What was the next step? Was it clothing going missing? Was it, your television turning channels on its own? Take us through it.
No. Yeah. And this is what I was saying earlier. this is where I feel the spirits were getting bored with us, because the next phenomena, and the thing we just talked about are phenomena, we didn't know at the time, but these are the early stages of a well-known phenomena. Me and Tina are watching TV one night, and I think we're watching a movie, it's Netflix, and we're just sitting side by side on the couch. And Tina has this 4-foot tall plant that sits next to the entertainment center. And we're watching TV when all of a sudden the plant rises up into the air, okay, and spins 360 degrees, quite fast, mind you, and then keels over and falls back to the ground. And this happened in front of both of us because it's right next to the TV. We're sitting side by side, and I think our reaction, me and Tina, was similar to the kid cough of looking at each other and saying, did that just happen? I think that's our exact words were, did you see what I saw? And we're asking each other that same question. And we leap up together and we go toward the plant. And honest to God, we're looking, me especially, for the hidden wire. I'm looking for the string, the hidden cord, the remote control device, and I'm not finding anything. All I'm finding is a plant that's knocked over, and we gave that plant a good run through with our hands and visually looked it over, and we even picked it up. I picked it up and tried to duplicate or reenact what we just saw, and that's when I looked at Tina, she looked at me, and I'm like, wait a minute, this has got to be a joke. Somebody's punking us. Somebody's got us on camera, ha, ha, ha. This must be some sort of welcome to the neighborhood or the homeowner or something, because plants don't levitate, plants don't fly, they don't spin. And I was so glad Tina was sitting next to me, because I'm not 100% sure if she had been anywhere in the house and I go tell her what I just saw or vice versa, that she would believe me right away. But we saw it together, and I think that night when going to bed, I think either Tina or me rewinded in our brain of, that's where the kid cough came from. That's where the missing stuff came from. That's where the objects appearing came from. And I looked at Tina and I said, I think we got a kid ghost. I think we got a spirit here. Neither one of us was scared or fearful of the plant levitating, because we had already heard the kid cough, and we had found toys that are for 5 or 6-year-olds. So we were like, oh, there's a kid spirit here, even though we know nothing about spirit. We're thinking, okay, kid spirit obviously is trying to get our attention. Why, we don't know. And the only thing we did after that was go to the internet to see, how do you deal with a kid spirit? I mean, if this is a kid spirit, let me type in Google how to get rid of or how to quell or calm a kid spirit in your house. And the answer to that question was varied depending on which website I landed on. But the common theme amongst majority of the websites is, well, sometimes kid spirits are lost. Sometimes they've yet to move on. There may be something keeping them here. Talk to them gingerly, kindly, and try to walk them to some sort of light. And that's what we did. Not, keep in mind, we don't know what we're talking to. We don't even know what direction to face while we're talking. We're just talking to the air or to the ceiling above us. But that was instructions number 1 that we found on the internet.
So now all of a sudden you're having to turn yourself into an amateur ghost hunter, trying to figure out what the Sam hell is going on in your brand new house. What's the timeline on this from the day you got the keys and started moving in? How many days after or weeks after is this?
This is about 8 weeks in. This is about no less than 6 weeks in. We're probably in the house about 2 months at that time.
Wow. Wow. I mean, you must have just been starting to freak out. So when you started looking into the aspect that you could have the ghost of a child in the house, how did you start looking into the paranormal? How did you figure out what to do?
Well, interesting thing, the information we found on the internet said, hey, because I asked the question, how can you tell if there's a ghost in your house? And some of the websites had that question, and underneath it says disappearing objects, phantom footsteps, phantom noises, items appearing that neither you or other house occupants own. Those are generally the telltale signs that a house might be haunted, which can rule out other factors. But so yeah, that's what made us go back to. Oh, that's why the silverware is missing. Oh, that's why 10 of your jewelry, because some of the websites said jewelry or shiny objects tend to go missing. Silverware, shiny object. Tina's jewelry, shiny object. And you can even make a stretch to say my car keys are shiny object. Kid cough on day one, and kid toys appearing. So it was all adding up at that time. And we knew then, because there's no strings on the plant, there's no wire, there's no remote control device. We have we didn't use the word haunted at that time. We just said, oh, we got a kid spirit living with us. And I guess we're going to have to be parents to it and try to solve its puzzle and try to get it to where it needs to go. I mean, this has been Tina's conversation. We're discerned type individuals. We weren't freaking out or panicking or calling the landlord to get my money back. We were just very discerned and say, okay, if it's a kid spirit, obviously it wanted to get our attention. We're kind of slow on the upkeep, but it did. Now let's talk to it, and if it's hearing us now, maybe I'll take our advice. So that's what we did.
I remember when my ex-wife and I had a rental, and we rented through a realty company. And I remember after a bunch of activity at our place, I remember calling up the realty company and saying, my house is haunted. And I was absolutely blown away when the response was, yeah, it doesn't surprise me. 85% of the houses in this area that are 40 plus years and older are haunted. So I'm wondering, in thinking of that, at what point did you ever think, or maybe you did, call your realtor up to see if the previous tenant had any paranormal activity in the house, or if there was any deaths in the house, or did you try and find out some history on it?
Yeah, one of the advice given to us off the internet, off paranormal websites, mind you, was, if you think your house is haunted, and if it is haunted, here's what you can do. You can go online, and we did, to see, number one, has a death occurred. We did that, and the result came back 0. Also, see about the land or the area around the house. We did that. That came back relatively 0. When I contacted the landlord much later, I asked him, hey, we're hearing weird noises, thuds, and noises and footsteps coming from the attic at night. Did any of your previous tenants ever tell you about that? Did anybody ever reveal that to you? And his answer was a flat no. He's like, no. But I don't want to get too far ahead of the story, but his reaction was very, how can I put it, dismissive. Yeah, it was very dismissive. And the mail, the U.S. Postal, was still coming to the house at times of people who once lived there. And when he gave us the keys, he said, hey, by any chance you get any letters that come from previous tenants, just forward them to me. Just put them in an envelope or whatever all together once a month or every other month and forward to me. And letters were coming to the house. So then one day I just emailed. I said, hey, is it possible that you could give me the phone numbers of the people who once lived here? I'd just like to talk to them, get their feeling and rendition of the house. And he said he was not allowed to do that. It's confidentiality. But if there's anything I wanted to relate, he could forward it on. And I just said, never mind. I just forwarded the mail off to him, and that was that. So, a lot of things we got, the things to do, to decipher, to discern, to investigate. Yeah, me and Tina, we were paranormal investigators in kindergarten. We were in diapers. We were crawling. And we were just relying on the information. I mean, it seemed logical. These are things you seem logical to do. It's not much heavy lifting involved to research your home online. So, yeah, we did all those things.
How did it start to get out of hand for you guys?
Well, I mean, the word out of hand is kind of relative because keep in mind, as we're trying to talk to the spirit and walk it to the light or see what it wants. I mean, we're having items appear out of nowhere, so the question we're asking ourselves, well, what does it want? And that's just the internet told us, well, maybe the spirit wants something. But every time we would try to communicate with it verbally, then the loud bangs came. And I literally mean loud bangs of, you ask the question, why are you here? Boom, boom, boom. Okay, that was different. Or go into the light, be at peace, find rest. And then another plant will go flying across the room, or a projectile object will go flying, or the lights would flicker, or the kitchen chair would slide across the kitchen. And these are things that are happening while you're talking to the invisible space above your head. So then me and Tina are like, okay, maybe this spirit is either not a kid or doesn't want help. Because after that is when things started turning malevolent. And by malevolent, I mean, okay, now you're keeping us up at night or trying to keep us up at night. Now we're having doors slam while we're sleeping. I'm talking about the bedroom door. Now we're having doors slam while we're in the shower. Now we're having objects thrown, like an iron or ironing board thrown while you're sleeping, or the TV turning off while you're watching it, or the TV turning on while you're sleeping. And these are not friendly actions. So you're starting to think, okay, what else could be here? Is it a teenager? But then the internet advice given is, okay, well, now you got to have the house blessed. Let's get the house blessed and start setting up some parameters. And we did. We contacted churches, and we got a few to come over and bless the home. And that did calm the activity for a week or two. And when the activity returns, it usually resumes where it left off. The bangs are more louder. The objects being moved are more heavier. And now you're like, okay, what's the other steps after that? And then somebody recommends smudging and saging, which I never heard of. And so now I have to research on how to do that. Where I'm going to find sage. What do I get a sage thing? So you're doing all these things, and like I said, you're trying to display your religious beliefs openly. Like you start pulling out the Bibles, the crosses in 2012 or late summer of 2012, early fall. And late summer, early fall of 2012 is when the first Bible went missing. Because I was advised by numerous people, my best friend included, of before you go to bed, you need to pray together and give praise and thanks and tell these spirits they can't have your house. So I would do this, and then I put my Bible on the lamp table and I'd go to bed. And yeah, the first Bible to catch fire, in 2014, mind you, went missing first in 2012. It was missing for about a year and a half. And when it returned on fire. So what I want your listeners to understand is what we've talked about so far is the majority of 2012, summer and fall. The activity did taper off toward the end of fall of 2012 and went virtually silent, mind you, for all of 2013. So at that time, we thought we dodged a bullet, no pun intended, but we thought we dodged a bullet, and we thought, hey, what we did worked. Due diligence does pay off. Even though I still have multiple objects missing, including the Bible, Kenneth never got her jewelry back. The silverware never reappeared, but the banging has stopped. The phantom footsteps have stopped. The door slams have stopped. So now we can probably live in the house. This is the house we want. This is the house we saw on Craigslist. I don't know what that other stuff was, but hey, if it's gone, it's gone. And 2013 was totally quiet. I mean, yeah.
Well, Lisa gave you some peace. Maybe it needed a break. You know, I say that with a laugh, but I mean, it's almost like they figured, you know what, we're going to leave you alone for a while because let's see how you react to this. Almost like they were teasing you, tempting you, taunting you.
Yeah, and me and had a lot of pillow talk discussions when the activity died down and when it did. I don't know, but I guess I'm just wired weird because even when the activity died down, I always felt something was still in the house. And I told Tina a lot of times that, yeah, we haven't had activity in 2 months. Yeah, we haven't had it in 3 months. Hey, 4 months. I still feel like something's here. She would sometimes look at me and like, wow, why you feel that? Why I just feel like we're being observed. I just feel like something is buying its time. And there would be little subtle instances to that theory that would prove that theory to be correct, obviously, because they came back in 2014. But nothing physical, no physical phenomena, but only subtle things but that could happen in any house. So you would just be like, oh, and an example would be like, it's 3 a.m. or 2 a.m. in the morning, and this is 2013, and all of a sudden the fire alarm starts ringing. Ringing through the whole house. And you wake up from a deep sleep, and every fire alarm in the house is going off. Usually one trips off the other, so you go run to that one that's tripping off the others and get it to quell, and the other ones die down, and there's no fire. And you're like, wait a minute. I just ran out of my bed, T-shirt and boxes, heart beating fast. I'm panting, almost broke my neck coming down the stairs in pitch black, because, it's a fire. You hear a fire alarm in the middle of the night, you're going to dart up and look for it. And there's nothing. And then you just look around, okay, maybe that fire alarm is malfunctioning. And then you go back to bed. Other instances are just, seeing something zoom out by the corner of your eye. You're watching TV with your girlfriend, or you're in your office typing something on the computer, and you see something zoom by your doorway. You turn toward that direction, but of course nothing's there. You're just like, and I told Tina, I just feel like something is still here. And then when it did finally come back the spring of 2014, mind you, I had a bad fall January 2nd of 2014 that really restricted me to the upstairs house for about 6 weeks because I tore my right patella tendon in a weird fall. It was a weird fall. And we always, the day of the fall and the firemen and the ambulance came, was I pushed? I don't know. It was over before it started, but I did have to have surgery to repair my knee, and I was bedridden for 6 weeks and confined to the upstairs while I mended, and the activity returned soon after. And around March, when it returned, I don't mean it returned back to items or toys disappearing or appearing. I mean a 300-pound armoire was thrown from one side of the hall to the other. And that was about March of 2014. And after that armoire got thrown, it was game on for the next 8 months of activity every day. And I mean, on a scale of 1 to 5, 2012 was a level 1, low or high level 1. The activity of 2014 was a level 5. And I'm talking about for 8 months straight.
We're going to get into what happened in 2014 in the next hours. We only got about 5.5 minutes before we have to go to break, but I am curious, did any of your neighbors talk to you about this as you got to know them in regards to whether or not there had been strange things in this house previous? Because as you're investigating, and obviously you're talking to your neighbors, were their houses being haunted too? Were they hearing things or seeing things happen in your house as you guys were inside or maybe at work?
Well, I'm glad you asked that question because one of the neighbors across the street, a few days after we moved in, I mean, the movers are bringing stuff in for a couple of days, comes across the street. He's walking his dog, and I'm standing outside with my best friend. And he comes over and introduces himself, and he says, "Oh, I didn't even know this house was up for rent or up for sale because I'm always seeing people move in and out of this house. And it never seems to keep occupants." Now, he's telling me this on day 3 or day 4 of moving in. When Tina got the powers and the electricity and all that switched over into our names and her name, it was weird. She had a conversation with me that night of the customer service agent telling her, we're always switching the names of this house, be it 8 months or a year. Nobody stays in this house long. Of course, this is all before the plant flew, but we knew that later down the line, as we start talking, and once our house has become known as being haunted, neighbors will tell us, "Hey, our dogs act weird when they pass your house." My neighbor to the right of me, they have a dog, and they said inside, their dog doesn't go to the left side of the house. I mean, it literally will make a U-turn and not go into the rooms that are closest to our house. They told me this after the activity returned in 2014, once they start seeing paranormal vans park outside our house. But the paranormal investigators did ask them, "Are you having phenomena in your home?" And everybody said no. Nobody said, "No, we're not having anything except our pets act weird in conjunction to Keith's house." And the neighbor across the street saying, "Wow, that house seems to always have occupants or new occupants."
Well, that had to be a little bit eerie and made you a little inquisitive as to hearing that, because you have to wonder now how many people had come and gone from that house over the years, let's say in the last 3 to 5 years.
A lot. If I base it off the mail that was still coming to our house that had our address but different names on it, at least about 7 different families. Keep in mind, this house was built in 2005. I have to take the homeowner lived in for a time period and then put it up for rent. A lot of names are on the addresses on the envelopes, and that was. And we look for those names through Google and whatnot. And I'll go in the second part of the show. I'll talk about finding one previous tenant and how I found her that same year, 2014, the summer, late summer. And after finding her, how she did admit to the house having activity because they were in the house for a year and a half and they did have activity. But we can talk about that on the other side.
Absolutely. So as you started putting the puzzle pieces together, what is going through your mind? Do you think it is still a child's spirit at this time, or are you starting to think that this is getting a little bit more heavy-handed than what you expected?
This is way more heavy-handed, and I knew that at the end of 2012, because keep in mind, we would come home, once the plant levitated by our TV, that seemed to be them saying, okay, we're just going to go full Monty now. We're done with the pleasantries. Everybody knows everybody, because now we would come home, me and Tina, and you would hear thunderous footsteps rush upstairs. I mean, thunderous footsteps. Like, we walking through the front door and we disturb something. Like, you know, I'm talking about not just one footstep coming from one person. I'm talking about multiple, no less than 4. And you would hear this coming home from work, and you would swear there was someone in your home, because when I hear this, you know, I don't see a car parked outside. I know Tina's not here. And I literally some days went room to room because I actually thought someone was in the house. Tina would have that same experience. When she beat me home, she would have that same experience. And just by the level of the objects being thrown, I mean, we had a bookshelf in the hallway, the famous bookshelf, the famous hallway, and I had a lot of IT books up there before I started putting Bibles up there. And it would just trash them and throw them down. You'd be in your office, Tina would be in the room, you hear this loud commotion. And both bookshelves, the contents of both bookshelves are on the floor. You know, just like somebody came by with their arm and just did a swoop and like, get off my shelf. This is my shelf. And that happened a lot. You know, and that's when my friend said, well, replace those IT books with Bibles. Put the Bibles on the bookshelf. And they start throwing those off too. This is before the Bible went missing. They start throwing the Bible across the hallway. They start throwing it to the floor. They start slamming it shut. If you set a candle next to the Bible, it would throw the candle and the Bible to the floor. And that's when we was like, wait, this is not a kid.
This isn't a game anymore.
Yeah.
Keith, I'm going to get you to hold on here. We're going to step out for our first break of the night. Keith Linder is with us on the show tonight to wrap up this week in Spaced Out Radio. We are talking about the Bothell Bell House, or Hell House, pardon me. B&H, close on the keyboard. Got it screwed up. I apologize. The Bothell Hell House in Washington State. Keith is going to get more into what was happening here in hour number 2. Look forward to it. Stick around with more SOR right after this.
Find your escape where time has no limits. It's about living today and cherishing the heritage of yesterday. A spirit of adventure for what is new, with the nostalgia of the past. Your timepiece is a reflection of who you are. Life surrounded by beauty from the world around us to the soul within. EscapeWatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
The freedom to post what you want, when you want. That's the social media freedom you need. Social Media Freedom is the free app in your app store. No need to worry about going to jail or being shadow banned any longer. It's the freedom to say what you feel. The freedom to know Big Brother isn't watching. It's the way social media is supposed to be. Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free. Download from your app store today.
Coming September 28th to the 30th, it's our first annual Caribou Paracon, put on by Spaced Out Radio and the Canadian Society of Questers. 3 days of paranormal, supernatural, and spiritual knowledge in the beautiful 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Tickets are $150 Canadian for the event, being held at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Come watch our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Lorian Fenton, David Weatherly, Ross Allison, and more. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski, lead investigator with U4COP. On the final Monday of every month, you can listen to me and host Dave Scott on Spaced Out Radio's Strange Days. We're going to get to the heart of the matter when it comes to what's happening out there. People are seeing and experiencing things from ET contact to Bigfoot, and I want to hear about it. Your experiences are what we investigators need to help solve these unknown mysteries. So tune in at spacedoutradio.com to the final Monday of every month from Butch Witkowski's Strange Days.
Hi there, this is Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm going to take you for a ride every Sunday night on Spaced Out Sundays. I'm going to set up your week with some strange tales from across North America, from psychic readings, Sasquatch, UFOs, to the most haunted locations. Come join me at spacedoutradio.com starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern, and let's get weird together. I'd love for you to join me. Spaced Out Sundays at spacedoutradio.com.
There's news, and there's the encounter. This is Spaced Out Radio News Director Everett Thiemer inviting you to check out The Encounter. Our half-hour news segment every Monday through Friday night is different compared to what you're used to. Our goal is to bring you the weird, strange, and interesting stories the mainstream tends to leave out. and stories that will make you scratch your head in disbelief. The Encounter can also be found at spacedoutradio.com and on our Facebook page, SOR The Encounter. Come give us a read.
We're bringing scientific thought to the paranormal. Hi there, this is Spaced Out Radio scientist Chris Cogswell. Join me, Chris Zuger, and Dave Scott the second Wednesday of every month, where we break down the who from the woo when it comes to everything paranormal. We'll investigate and try to bring sensible answers to those straight and sometimes outlandish questions people have. Hey, not everything has an answer, but we'll do our best. Listen in to Reality Paranormal only on Spaced Out Radio.
Heading to Vancouver and looking for some great nightlife? The Moose Vancouver is the place to be. Catch a game on one of the big screens or just come rock out to your favorite 80s and 90s hair bands. Great food starting at $6.95. The Moose Vancouver is open until 2 a.m. nightly. It's easy to find near the corner of Nelson and Granville. The Moose Vancouver is the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you interested in advertising on Spaced Out Radio? Head to our website at spacedoutradio.com and click on our advertising tab. There, you will find an assortment of ways you can get your product out there with us, from radio commercials to banners and social media. Have a product you like our hosts to endorse? We can do that too. Visit spacedoutradio.com for more details.
Do you want to know what's really going on in your world? Do you have questions about who you can trust in the mainstream media? Then look no further than the Rebel Planet. Come get the straight answers right here at spacedoutradio.com. Join me, Jamie Sexton, creator of Rebel Planet News, as I fill you in on the stories behind the stories. All you truth seekers, be sure to tune in to Rebel Planet on spacedoutradio.com the third Thursday of every month.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
So, you love talk radio? Then you'll love TalkStreamLive.com. TalkStream Live is always on, 24/7, with the best streaming talk shows. Find your favorite talkers and discover some new ones. It's free, readily available online or on mobile with any smartphone or tablet. Finding your favorite talk shows all in one place has gotten a whole lot easier. Just go to TalkStreamLive.com. Be sure to download the free apps from Google Play or the iTunes App Store.
Hey, this is Canadian Paranormal Investigator Mike Moore. The third Wednesday of every month, I'll be teaming up with Dave Scott to bring you Ghosts of the Great White North. Each month, we will bring on guests from across Canada to discuss their ghostly encounters. Canada is a paranormal hotbed with stories you've never heard, so we're going to bring them to you. So get comfy on your Chesterfield, grab a donut, and join us, eh?
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. Would you like to connect with us? Head to spacedoutradio.com for all your latest show info. And hit us up on Twitter using the hashtag SpacedOutRadio. Now, back to Dave Scott and SOR.
Welcome back to the second hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. This weekend, Tessa Nicole Thomas is back with Spaced Out Weekend and a couple of very good guests coming up. She will also be hosting for me on Monday. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. We welcome back everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Don't forget you can check out our archives for free. Yes, free at our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Oh my God, Bill. Trinitrophenylmethylnitramine. Trinitrophenylmethylnitramine is your password. Nobody really knows what it means, but Bill sets the password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Don't forget our website is spacedoutradio.com, where we have a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. Tonight we are talking about the Bothell Hell House, Bothell, Washington. There we go, as I untie my tongue. Keith Linder is our guest tonight. He lived in the home between 2012 and 2016. Now, Keith, before we get into this too much, I've seen a couple of comments about it. How the hell did you live there for so long?
Oh, man. You know what, Dave? I asked myself that question. Even now, and I've moved out the house 2 years ago. Even now, I ask myself the question of, how in the heck did we survive that? And my answer varies because there's multiple answers to that question. One of the answers being, I don't know. Another answer is, when we got the house and I got the house before Tina, it just really felt to me too knee-jerk or too cliche to just cut and run. I know that sounds kind of weird, but this was my first house. I had worked extremely hard to acquire it, and it just felt weird to just cut and run over something so unknown. A lot of questions would have been raining over my head had I just left at the offset, because there was a lot of stuff we didn't know. There's a lot of stuff I know now that I didn't know then, and we'll never know the full piece of the puzzle. But another thing about me and why we stayed, and it was a group effort. Me and Tina made a group effort decision to stay, bunker down, as long as we had people helping us. And keep in mind, we had people so-called helping us. We had the local church, the local parish, and nobody was telling us to leave, so we felt we had a support system, even though it wasn't always reliable, but we felt we had something. And for me, going back to one of your original questions earlier of multiple people have lived in the house, and if they just left because a chair slid across the room, that's understandable. But for me, I just couldn't leave the house in the worst condition of when I found it. I'm talking about the spiritual aspect, because right now the Bothell house will forever be known for the activity that took place there. We were totally caught unaware. Any family that comes into the house now is going to make a verbal decision to move in anyways, despite of everything they know. And that's why I've gone to great lengths to put the evidence and the information out there on the internet, because I want people to know, mainly the people who occupy the home, this is what happened. You might not believe all of it, but there's going to be a percentage of your psyche that's going to believe some of it. And if you believe some of it, at least the onus is not on me anymore, because nobody told us about the house. And when I got in contact with the previous tenant, her reaction was, we just moved. They just got the heck out of Dodge. And that's understandable. I don't fault them for that. But no, for me, it was, we're going to try to make the house livable, and I put the word try in quotes, but we're going to try to make it livable. We're going to try to get to the bottom of things, and hopefully whoever comes in after us won't have to experience what we experienced, you know. So those were some of the reasons for staying. Was it easy? No. I mean, there's no happy ending to the story for those familiar with the book and with this case. There's no happy ending here, and we're talking about a lot of the dark stuff that's about to happen, because trust me, it's about to get very dark in 2014.
You also mentioned that you had talked to a neighbor or a previous tenant, pardon me, as you tried to track down information on this, because, you know, I can just feel for you this time, Keith, because you're working a full-time job, you're trying to put food on the table and the roof over your head, but in the meantime, outside of it, because of everything that is happening, it's almost given you a secondary full-time job in trying to figure out what is going on in your home.
Yeah, I always say life for me and Tina for that 4 years time period, life didn't really start living until we got home from work. Work was just a thing you do, like you said, to pay the bills. When we got home, that's when living started. I mean, we walk in our home, you didn't know what to expect when you got there. You could have everything upside down. You could have all the chairs neatly aligned. You could have all the chairs stacked on top of each other. There could be weird messages written on the wall waiting for you upstairs. So, yeah, all of that in conjunction with trying to maintain a 9 to 5 and trying not to, because keep in mind, once I start slipping mentally, if I do slip mentally, then there goes the job that's in jeopardy. There goes his attendance, his job performance, his work performance. He's sleeping on the job, man. And we're tired, we're exhausted, and these things will start showing wear and tear on you relatively quickly, and they did for me and Tina. And like I said, I could do 8 hours of work any day, but when I come home, I don't know what I'm going to see. It's always something new the minute I close that door or the minute me and Tina walk through that door that night. There's always something new. And it's always, when I'm calling the priest the next morning, I'm telling him or her, hey, this is what happened last night in our house. So yeah, it was very tough and hard on a day-by-day basis to cope and deal with that.
So when you got a hold of this former tenant, were you surprised to learn anything that you didn't know? What did this lady tell you?
I was surprised and relieved. I think I was more relieved because up until now, and this is 2.5 years of us living in the house, we still don't know the root cause, and there's still a percentage of us thinking, me and Tina, did something follow us here? I mean, yeah, we've been together 2 years. How much do I know her? How much does she know me? Did something follow us into this house? Did we bring it ourselves? Was something tethered to me for however how many long years, and now it's finally manifesting? So we didn't know, and those questions were being asked us by a lot of people. But when I got a hold of the previous tenant, and mind you how that unfolded was, her letter came to the house. It was addressed to her. And instead of taking it to the landlord, I decided to take it to Facebook, and I Googled her name, and I found her, and I emailed her. I was very nervous about emailing her, especially with the subject matter I was about to introduce to her. But I emailed her, and I said, hey, my name is Keith Linder. I live in the house that you used to live in Bothell. I could tell that she once lived in the Bothell house based on her wall, what was written on her Facebook wall during the time period that she lived here. And I said, did anything weird happen in the house? I didn't tell her what weird was. I just said, did anything happen weird in the house while you and your family lived in? And let me tell you, she came back with 3 smirky eye wink emoticons in the chat. And I knew right then and there I'd come to the right person. Most people would tell her, what are you talking about? What do you mean weird? No, she came back with 3 smirks, and I drilled her. I said, well, can you elaborate? And her response from that was, pause. I'm not ready to talk about it. We're not ready to talk about it. I need to talk to my husband before I tell you, because she said, me and her husband, we just got back together. And we separated or divorced in that house. So she said, let me get my thoughts together and talk to him, and can I contact you back? And I told her, yes, sure, fine. And I didn't email her anymore. I figured she needed to do a weekend or a couple of days. It took her 2 months, Dave, to get her thoughts together, because she reached back out to me in 2 months. And when she reached back to me, she was very apologetic. And I got the chat of our exchange in my book. And she would say, hey, sorry it took so long to get back in contact with you. Me and my husband had a long talk about it. He still doesn't want me to talk to you, but I feel I'm obligated because it's the Christian thing to do. And she says, let me just tell you, that house was a living hell for us. She said that house was a living hell. It was the beginning of the end of everything in that house. And I immediately knew what she meant because me and Tina at that time had already gone through a lot of things and seen a lot of things. And it felt like a living hell for us at the time. But the thing that she brought home to me that really got me really scared for the first time out of everything I've seen in the house was when she said it seemed like the house was alive. It seemed like the house had a mind of its own, and everything bad that her family experienced while living in the home or in their life began the minute they moved in. And I thought, who does that sound like? Because keep in mind, while she's telling me this, now me and Tina are having relationship problems. Now we're having spats. Now the 2-year fantasy of moving in the house together is now turned upside down. And the mood has changed. There's a dark cloud. Now there's a dark cloud that follows Tina when she gets up in the morning. And there's a dark cloud that follows me when I get up in the morning. So we're bonding now. What she's telling me is just blowing me away. And then she's telling me about the phenomena. She's saying the kitchen cabinet doors always slammed. There were moments when we would wake up in the morning and the kitchen cabinets were all open. And that's in my book. Me and Tina had that happen numerous times. She said one time I was outside on the patio. I was smoking. I left my baby in the chair, and I had food on the stove cooking. And the sliding door slammed shut, and it locked me out the house. And my baby started screaming. And she said I had to throw a rock through the glass to get back into the house. But she said, and this is her word, the door slammed shut. She didn't say I turned back around and locked myself out accidentally or whatever. She said, no, the door slammed shut. And she said it was a living hell. One time her and her husband were out of town. It was just the nanny and the kids. And the nanny that night had heard so much footsteps and so much noise. The next morning, the nanny woke up and found all the kitchen cabinet doors open. The nanny took the kids, and they drove to Yakima to the nanny's family because the nanny was done with that house. So she told me all this in multiple emails and phone conversations. Yeah, that was really the moment of truth for me because everything else I've seen is real, but they lived in there 2008, 2009. There's at least 2 families between them and us that we know of in that house that we've yet to speak to. But her year and a half in the house, yeah, that was interesting.
When she was giving the examples of what they went through, were you mentally or maybe on paper having a bunch of check marks saying, yep, that's happened. Yes, that's happened. Yes, that's happened. Like, were you just amazed at this confirmation? Because yeah. I could literally sense you almost like sinking deep into your chair, getting deflated as you're hearing all of this because you're hearing it or those same experiences from someone else on the same property.
Yeah, because keep in mind that this time we had seen a lot, me and Tina, and we've told our friends and we told the paranormal teams in the churches, but you still don't know what to make of it. Hearing somebody tell what they went through that's identical to what we're going through, yeah, it does something to you. Now, one of the things at that time that I had not yet divulged, because it's kind of weird to divulge this, of seeing shadow figures. And these shadow figures are maybe a foot tall at best. And I would see them constantly, especially in 2014. And they would hover and hang around the outside of my office or the hallway or the foot of the bed or the ceiling area of the living room and den. I didn't tell this lady about my shadow figure. I didn't tell her about none of the phenomena until she revealed her stuff. And she said, and my son, she said, oh, by the way, my son saw shadow figures in that house. And he still sees them to this day. And that right there moved me because I'm like, wait a minute, your son, what room was he in? Her son's room was my office. Where my office was, the infamous office with the wall markings and the fires and the whatnot, that was her son's office. He said, my son developed meningitis and he was very young and very sick and almost died multiple times. She herself almost tried to kill herself 3 times in the home. She said, I had 3 suicidal attempts. That's how bad things got. I just became depressed and wanted to just off myself in that house. So she's telling me all these things, and I'm like, okay, I know where we're at in the stage. Are we going to become suicidal? Is Tina going to become suicidal? I'm seeing shadowy figures already. I've only conferred that to Tina. Tina only knows right now that I've seen them. I've already seen a few apparitions. So yeah. So now I'm connecting the dots. I'm checking things off mentally, and they're all connecting. And I really know, like, okay, this is deeper than the kid call. This is deeper than object missing. This goes back 4 years that we know of. This goes back to 2008, if not even further than that. And, you know, not everybody, even who's experienced paranormal, just blurts out shadow figures. And how she described them as far as height, tall, width, where they were in the house, I've seen them, you know. And so yeah, it was a lot of moment of truth in our back and forth conversation.
I have a question from one of our listeners here, Trip, who is asking, once, Keith, you figured out and accepted what was happening, did you find any odd symbols, patterns, designs inside or outside the house?
Yes, for your listeners who asked that question, one of the phenomena that, I mean, this that made this case what it is or traumatized me and Tina were the inexplicable wall markings. These wall markings began to appear late spring, summer of 2014 in my office. In the walls, ceiling, as the activity grew darker and darker, and as me and Tina's mood changed with the activity, some of the wall markings started to appear outside the home. And by outside, I mean the lawn, my car. We would wake up and find scratches on our headboard after a night of sleep. Or you go and take a shower, and you know how the mirror fogs up or whatever, and you get out the shower, and there on the mirror, written in soap, mind you, is the upside-down cross. You know, you just took a shower, and the upside-down cross written in soap wasn't there when you got in the shower. Showers are relatively a few feet from you, but there it is, or it's written on the glass. We have one of those sliding glass shower doors, and it's written on that. That's multiple chapters in my book, The Bothell Hill House, talks about the inexplicable wall writings and what some of that stuff was and made out of, but it said multiple. Majority of them were the 666 symbol or the 666 number, upside down crosses numerous times. They used different application methods or paint, if you will. Some of it was relatively impossible to paint over, even with your thickest form of primer. These markings would bleed through several layers of paint. That happened a lot.
I mean, as you're finding all of this and upside down crosses and symbolism you may not very much understand, what is going through yours and Tina's minds at this point? How are you feeling? I can understand the word scared, but I'd like you to define that true feeling for our audience to try and be able to feel it themselves.
Yeah, at that phase, me and Tina knew, especially after the first fire, that we have in our midst, in our home, something very, 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 very powerful. Something very, very, very evil. I don't throw the word evil around loosely because I'm a firm believer that actions speak louder than words. But if something is going to start a fire in the opposite room of the house while I'm taking a shower, and when I'm running out to shower, an invisible force runs past me and making all kind of noise while it's doing it, and I see the front door open and slam shut. Mind you, nobody's going through it. It just opens and slams shut on its own. I have to throw the word evil at that, because who would do that? What would do that? Me and Tina would sometimes sit in our bed or lay in our bed and look straight up at the ceiling and ask ourselves, should we just leave now? You know, just forget all possessions, just leave now, because, and I'm thinking this, but I'm not telling Tina, this might not have a happy ending. I mean, yeah, we got the churches involved, and we talk to them, and they come regularly over here, and they put the holy water around, and everybody's trying the best that they can when they're here. When they're here, everybody's giving 100%. It's hard to get them here, but when they're here, they give 100%. But we're thinking something wrong happened in this house, and we don't know what. And we've asked and we've asked. The previous tenants gave us a lot of information, but each answer creates more questions. And something horrible or evil happened in this house. I mean, people can see the pictures of this house. This house is innocent as houses go from relatively looking at it from the outside. But the previous tenant said it best when she said, the house feels like it's alive. You know, when you walk through that front door, you're not in Kansas anymore. The house is looking at you from every direction. And they're just trying to decide how much they want to interact with you that night. Do they want to go full Monty and just totally turn your hair gray? Or we're going to let Keith and Tina sleep tonight? It's really up to them. And me and Tina wake up the next day, and we're in that dark place then. Because we're tired, sleep deprived, and we're trying to stay vigilant. I mean, we're trying to stay vigilant. You know, we're trying not to cede ground to something evil, because we don't know if it's going to follow us. I mean, the previous tenant's son saw shadow figures in the home, and he still sees them to this day. I would rather fight the battle here in this house than move across town and find it waiting on me in my new place.
What happened if and when you prayed?
Well, when we would pray, me and Tina, most of the time we tried to pray together. I mean, there was multiple prayers: Lord's Prayer, Serenity Prayer, Michael the Archangel Prayer, St. Benedict's Prayer. Sometimes loud bangs, sometimes nothing. One time we had a bar stool fly across the room during the middle of prayer. Sometimes you would pray in an opposite room and come back into the kitchen, and all the kitchen cabinet doors are open. They weren't open before. Most of the time we pray laying on our backs, Dave, in our bed, because the doors crocked open with a pillow, because if we don't put a pillow between the doors, they slam it shut. And they don't slam it shut while you're awake. They wait till you sleep. We got to put a pillow in between the door. And some nights the noise is just so bad outside that we have to just remove the pillow and just close the door. Well, then you see the shadows underneath the door. It's almost like a train station of mass movement, because all these shadow feet are going, there's light coming underneath the door, and you can see all this shadow. And you just pray. I mean, you pray. You know, I grew up, my grandmother and my parents always said, you know, you say that prayer before you go to bed. Now lay me down to sleep. I pray the Lord my soul to keep. If I should die before I wake, I pray the Lord my soul to keep. That's the number one prayer me and Tina said. That's the number one prayer we said every night when we went to bed. Sometimes multiple times, because when I close my eyes, this might be the last time. And I mean, that's where our head was at. This might be the last time. You know, of course, I knew now it's better to terrorize you than to just off you. You know, they were getting high energy our fears and our anxiety, and the vexation was extremely high.
So after you talked to the previous tenant of the home, did the action increase almost like the spirits knew that they were now outed?
It didn't increase when I talked to the previous tenant. What always seemed to increase is when we got help. When we got teams in or churches in, the spirits seemed to go docile, almost like, oh, Keith, you're overreacting. We're just trying to have some fun. Okay, we're not going to be, everybody shut up. The investigators are here. And, you know, it's like quiet as a mouse, you know. And then on every blue moon, every small instant, as the paranormal team had conducted their investigation, done a few cleansings, and sort of in a comical way certifying that the house is clean, they're loading up their gear, and right before they touch the doorknob, our front door, as they're about to leave, an object goes flying across the room, or a loud door slam or a loud bang. And me and Tim, look, see, you hear that? You hear that? You see that? That's what we live with. That's what we're dealing with. And then the paranormal team, some of them be like, their mouth drop open like, oh my God. Or some of them just be like, oh, that's just residual energy. It'll taper off. Yeah, we got it all. Yeah, we're walking spirits out with us. But, yeah, and then after they leave and get back to their respective homes or whatever, or the priest get back to where he came from, then the spirit's like, it's open season again. Oh, you want to call for help? Or you want to call churches now? Oh, okay, you want to get the church involved? I'll tell you what, good luck sleeping tonight. I mean, we're going to bang, we're going to raise noise. And keep in mind, Dave, sometimes me and Tina have to go from room to room depending on how bad the activity was in one room, or sometimes we just have to up and get a hotel. I mean, sometimes the activity got so bad, there's no way we're sleeping in this house. This house is too much. There's a concussion sound. The house is humming. No, we need 48 hours. We're gonna go get a hotel and stay in a hotel for 48 hours. Open up all the upstairs windows, and hopefully the air blows this stuff out. Because if we go to sleep right now, the house is too heavy. You feel this heavy. You feel like you're in a vice. It's like you're being in a pressure cooker. You feel every square inch of you being squeezed by what you don't know, and you know not to lay in that bed tonight. If I lay in this bed tonight, I know they're going to light it on fire. So we're going to go get a hotel, and we would come back on Sunday or Monday morning. The house felt different, felt light. First 72 hours are calm. But then, you know, after that, it's back where we started. But, yeah, that was all the time. Like I said, everything I've told you now is every day for 2014 for the first 8 months.
Did it ever get physical?
Well, Tina had scratches. Her scratches, believe it or not, appeared after the Ghost Adventures had left. She woke up one morning, scratches on both arms. The next day, she got out the shower. I was somewhere in the house. She's come running frantic to me. She had scratches on both arms and both legs. They never went physical like that before. I've never, outside of the mysterious fall, I've never had anything physical on me, like a mark or a scratch. I've had objects thrown at me. I've had objects miss me by a centimeter, or chef knives land outside my door, but nothing physically that I know of, and I really mean that I know of.
Do you think they missed you on purpose, or do you think that you were just able to have the reflexes to get out of the way?
Oh, they miss on purpose. I'm never aware when they throw stuff. They miss me. They miss you. I've been grazed. I've had things just, I mean, the precision, if we want to talk about the dynamics and the physics of it all, the precision and the level of accuracy, I have to believe they throw with the intent of not hitting you. They want to come awfully close, though. You know, they want to come awfully close. But they throw, and maybe this is just I don't know if it's their rule or the rule of law of the universe, but it seems, because keep in mind, I don't know when the throw is coming. I could be washing dishes Tina's somewhere upstairs. It's my day to do dishes. And all of a sudden, something goes zooming past me. No rhyme or reason or no precursor, no hint that it's coming. And I've had many of objects zoom past me and get lodged in a wall, or many things that go past me, and you hear a loud crash, and there's nothing to be found. The item that you thought you heard won't appear sometimes until hours later. I can tell you how many times we would hear a loud crash, go to the direction of the crash, and nothing's there. Return an hour or so later, and there's a vase broken up into a trillion pieces, and you're like, well, that's what we heard, but we were here earlier. And that's weird. There's so many paranormal moments, there's so many moments that I clearly label supernatural because it just defies the laws of physics.
So when you were having these experiences, when or after people came in, when you started inviting people in to check out the house, did you immediately start with churches, or did you start with paranormal teams?
We started with churches. Our belief system, we started with churches, meaning the house blessing. The local parish did a lot of, this is a format that they run through of blessing, cleansing, communion, and other ceremonies in the house. Other churches, there's blessing. That's all they remember. That's their only remedy is blessing. When the outbreaks became physically manifested, then we start calling paranormal teams, and the paranormal teams would come in, and all of them start at zero. They hear you. Yeah, you got stuff going on. You tell us, yeah, stuff is fine, but we got to see it for ourselves, or we got to, pull the data. But, so I would say the churches first, and then the paranormal teams soon after. Yeah.
How come you went the church first before a paranormal team? Because for me, if I were to look at myself in that situation, I would have probably went the other way around, where the church would be the one I would trust the most to try and get any type of demonic force out of my home.
Yeah, that's why we went to the churches first, because the churches, keep in mind, we're raised, how I was raised and how Tina was raised is, your house is your place of refuge. It's a man or woman's place, where they live and sleep. And if any negative spirit comes in your home, we're raised to, you call your pastor, you call your preacher. And the churches, not all, but some, are experiencing or know how to deal with this. And keep in mind, we call Seattle Catholic Church. And a lot of churches bounced us around, and we finally found one that was willing to deal with paranormal phenomena. A lot of churches were like, we don't do that, or, but a few, the ones that were close to us, said, okay, we have a specific priest who does this when we get these types of calls. And that priest came over. So, yeah, we felt comfortable going to the church first. My only thing about calling paranormal teams, and when we call paranormal teams, but a lot of the paranormal's responses were of the nature of, you're calling us to see if you have activity. Me and Tina already know we have activity. When we call it paranormal, we're not calling you to investigate noises in the attic or sounds that we hear when we're in bed. We already know we have activity, but they come and they have to start their investigation from a standpoint of, we first have to establish, number one, if your house is really haunted. And we're like, you understand.
Yes, I totally understand that. Totally understand that.
Levitating.
I want to.
We're not.
Go ahead.
Okay. No, I was going to say, yeah, we're not. We were not trying to get them to validate the house is active. We're trying to get them to quell the activity. But their first rule of thumb from their standpoint, and they told us this is, we have to first validate that there's activity. So yeah, it was kind of interesting that concept. But yeah, the church was definitely the first move for us.
What did the priests say when they came to your home?
I mean, the priests are, I mean, from a spiritual standpoint, the ones that came to our home know of this. I mean, this is, you get into the spiritual and the religious aspect of it. They weren't hard to convince. The only thing maybe for them that was sort of crazy and out of this world was the frequency and the level. The priest who came to us and was assisting us told us of previous instances and cases with his own church members and for other homes throughout the Seattle Puget Sound area. So it wasn't a hard sell for him. But when he came to the home and saw certain things, he, by his own admittance, said he's never seen a house that's active before. He's seen plenty of active houses. And his thinking from a priest standpoint is these are malevolent spirits, these are unclean spirits, these are evil spirits, these are demonic spirits, and they have ill intent. But the priest, his strength, his belief, our faith and belief, we can win this battle. This is a battle that can be won. It's not going to be easy. He told us it's not going to be easy. You never know what you're dealing with 100%. We don't even know how many are here. But we're all in this together. We have our belief system. You and Tina have yours. We're together. We're going to try to fix this. You know, in the name of God, in the name of Jesus, this is what we're going to do. This is our plan of action. And that seemed plausible to us. As our upbringing, how we were, that seemed plausible and okay. But it wasn't easy, and they told us that, hey, you know what we're up against.
Keith, I'd love for you to, and maybe I'm jumping the gun here, but to get into the Bible story where the Bible were flying off the shelves and then the one that burnt. I mean, that scares the living daylights out of me even saying that.
Yeah, and that's a recommend because the Bible, keep in mind, we were advised to start displaying religious objects openly. I've had these Bibles for 15 odd years, and I've had them in my closet, and the recommend was display your religious belief, put a cross above your doorway, put some candles around, put some religious paraphernalia out. If you got a Bible, it won't hurt to put that out too. And we did, and you're right, the first Bible went missing. The first night it was out on the lamp table, it went missing. And then it disappeared and came back spring of 2014, a few days after the armoire got thrown. And it was 1:34 a.m. at night. We had a lot of activity that day, and around 1:34 a.m., the fire alarm goes off. Me and Tina rush out. We're frantic because we know we had activity. I know this is paranormal related by the time this time happened. So I open up the double doors, and I see our hallway is illuminated, and it's illuminated because there's a book on our floor in the doorway of our bedroom that's on fire. There are flames dancing on the book. I don't know what kind of book it is until I close it. When I close it, I realize this is the Bible that went missing in 2012. We're now March, April of 2014. The hallway is filled with smoke and soot and pages and burnt pages. I pick the Bible up, and I feel a bulge. I'm like, uh-oh, there's something in it. There was nothing in this Bible when I set it down a year and a half ago. So I open up the Bible, ash and stuff flies everywhere. And there's a wooden cross that is scorched that's in the middle of the pages. All the pages are scorched, but this wooden cross is scorched as well. And it's got a bronze crucifix on it. I ordered this cross off online a few days ago off Amazon from Jerusalem. And we hung it over our bed as a means of protection. We hung it over our bed that same night. It was not on our bed anymore. Now it's in the Bible, and now it's severely burned. That was Bible number 1. Bible number 2 and number 3 were burnt a few days later. Bible number 2 went missing the following Sunday, a week later, because, once again, everything that's happening, we're reporting to the church and to the paranormal teams, and the recommend is, well, if you got another Bible, put that one out. We got to be firm, vigilant, steadfast. So I put another Bible out on the bookshelf. This Bible went missing Sunday morning when I went up to get coffee. I noticed it was no longer on the bookshelf, and it returned a few hours later on the kitchen counter. When it returned, it was already burnt. There was no flames. There was no fire alarm. I came back downstairs, and there it was sitting there like scorched, burnt worse than the first one, mind you. And I called Tina, and there's a video on my YouTube channel of that moment because we filmed that with our cell phone or our cell phones. And the pages are singed. And then a week later after that, the third Bible, the final Bible, it's only been 3 Bibles that caught fire, or burnt, I should say. We came home. I had by then erected motion cameras in every room of the house, and we're getting all type of alarms saying motion detected, motion detected. When I got home that day, the house was upside down. Furniture, kitchen cabinets, wine rack. The house looked like a tornado had run through the upstairs and downstairs, and there, still neatly on the bookshelf, however, with a pile of ash sitting on it, was the Bible. And there's a video of that one, too, because I put it on my cell phone and recorded me touring the house of the damage and discovering the burnt Bible. And those were the only Bibles that burned. There were other Bibles that were shredded like confetti, other Bibles that were soaked in water or soaked in the bathtub, other Bibles that were thrown. I'm talking about thrown at me in my office or the hallway or while I was taking a shower. There's about 2 to 3 Bibles still missing, Dave, to this day that went missing that never returned.
Wow.
Somewhere, and I don't know where they're at, but they never returned. But those 3 Bibles,
yeah.
Catherine
wants to know in the chat room, with the Bibles that were burned, were there any specific passages in those Bibles that were burned?
Good question. It was hard to determine based on the level of pages burnt what passage specifically. I can only narrow it down to Bible 2 and Bible 3 had New Testament significantly burnt. The first Bible had both Old and New Testaments burnt. But there was a lot of chapters that were just so incinerated, you can't really tell what page was the first page burnt on this book because you're talking about, 10 to 15 different chapters, especially in the New Testament, that were just gone. I would honestly say for Bible number 3, almost all of New Testament was burnt. All of New Testament. The latter of Old Testament and the early parts of New Testament for the first Bible. Yeah.
Very interesting indeed. I got a couple more questions here from our audience, if you don't mind. Alyssa was wondering if you or Tina had any recurring dreams during this process that was going on.
Yeah, that's a good question because, night terrors. Tina started having them going back to that 2013 when the house was quiet. And she never had them before, even when she was living elsewhere, and I've known her 2 years. We didn't know we didn't know it was related to the house at that stage, but she would wake up in night terrors. I started having them in 2014, especially the latter part, the fall of 2014. I started having night terrors. You just wake up frantic, you wake up crying, you wake up with tears in your eyes, and that started happening. And these are, I don't call these bad dreams because I know what bad dreams are. These are not bad dreams. These are way beyond bad dreams. These are nightmares times 20. These are, how do I get out of this maze? How do I get out of this corner? How do I got to fight my way out? Where am I? I'm reliving my childhood, but everybody's got animal faces. These are dark dreams, and you wake up sweating. I've had bad dreams. I'm like, oh, that was a bad dream. But no, these are way beyond that.
GJ is asking if you ever put a tape recorder out or a digital recorder and just left it recording, and if so, did you get any ominous EVPs?
Yeah. When I had the cameras, motion detection cameras in my home, and the tripod video camera, mind you, I didn't know what an EVP was, so I was just taping, recording. When the UK guys came in toward the latter part, or the early part of 2016, the other paranormal teams started bringing voice recorders. They got a lot of voices, and they found a lot of voices. I mean, the scientific establishment of parapsychology found over 436 EVPs their first trip to the home when they lived in the house for a week. And the majority of these EVPs were Class A. I would say 85% of them were Class A. The remainder were Class B. They have to discard a lot of other EVPs. Anything Class C or below, they just tossed out. But you still are left with 436 Class A, Class B. When I realized the voices that they got off their video recorders and voice recorders, I went back and listened to all the video footage that I had recorded in the home. Every videotape that I have, and these are on YouTube now. I want you to listen to them. There's a YouTube channel. Just Google the Bothell Hell House and you'll come face to face on my channel, or Keith Linder. These videos go back all the way back to 2012, and all of them have voices on them. I didn't know what to listen for back then until I saw these parapsychologists and other researchers, Nikki and Mary and Carissa and others, actually pull voices off their voice recorders or video cameras. Because I started seeing or hearing, because they would tell me, you got voices there, we got conversation. And these are just not murmurs or utters. There are voices on here having conversations with each other, and they're not us. These are male voices. These are voices with accents. These are kid voices. Everybody's chitter-chatting, and they're talking about current events. I mean, they're talking about the investigators in the room. They're talking about you, Keith. They're talking about Tina. There's a voice recorder, or there's a video on my YouTube channel when me and Tina are looking at the second Bible on the kitchen counter. I went back and watched that video again, and a person, not me, mind you, a person somewhere after viewing that video on my channel emailed me and say, you need to listen to your video because there's a voice on there. And he was right. After the analysis, a voice utters Jesus Christ as me and Tina are combing through the burnt pages. It's a male voice. It's not mine. There's only two people in the room. And it just utters the word Jesus Christ. But yeah, there's a lot of voices. The videos that I posted up when I was just trying to catch physical phenomena, because I did not know about EVPs until teams came in my house, and that's the first thing they were going for were EVPs. And a lot of teams left with EVPs.
Did you find a lot of the paranormal teams selfish and unhelping, or were they all trying to help you?
Oh, man. Let's see. A lot of them were selfish and not helping. A lot of them were, how do I say it? Didn't know what they were doing, trying to imitate their favorite paranormal investigator on television. A lot of them don't know the first thing about poltergeist activity. A lot of them made the situation worse. A lot of them made promises of, we're going to trap the spirits in our person. Literally, we're going to walk the spirit into our body and then walk it out of your house, and you're never going to have a problem again. Some of them were sincere, and some of them had their heart in the right place, but not many. I want to be clear about it. Not many. A lot of them were opportunists. A lot of them were, this is the Holy Grail. Especially after the house aired on Ghost Adventures, I mean, requests were coming out to Yin Yang from local teams who at first were nonchalant about investigating the house. Not everybody wants to come, especially after Steve and Dawn made their claims or investigation public. But yeah, and that put me and Tina in harm's way, mind you, because we have to deal with repercussions, and the spirits know that. I can always tell that the spirits were sizing up everybody that walked through that door. You don't necessarily have to be a paranormal investigator. You can just be coming to my house just to chew the fat or have a beer with me. The spirits size up everybody that walks through that door. I had a friend, just get off topic here, I had a friend who came in who didn't necessarily believe in the paranormal. And she just wanted to just kind of get a lay of the land. But she came in and started mocking the spirits, like, hey, if you're real, show yourself. If you're real, you should say you're, or do something in front of me. And I told her, don't do that. Don't do that. No. And she was going on her way to the airport before stopping to my house. She went to the airport after leaving my house, and she got to the airport, and her passport was missing. Her ID was gone. She started having activities soon after in 3 of her houses. She had a house in Hawaii, a house in L.A., and a house in Kirkland, Washington, and started having weird phenomena. But yeah, the paranormal teams, most of them, I would just sum it up to saying, based on what they see, trying to imitate what they see on TV, we're just in over their heads, as we were.
Right.
But we're not paranormal investigators.
No, absolutely. And we got about another 30 minutes with you tonight on Spaced Out Radio, so we are going to be pushing hard in that third hour. I'm going to try and squeeze more questions in because I know they are there. Keith Linder is our guest tonight, the Bothell Hell House. I wouldn't live there, and I like weird stuff. I have a haunted house. But this one, no damn way. We're going to see how he solved that solution. And Everett Thiemer and the encounter coming up at the bottom of the hour. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio. We'll be right back.
Are you tired of being blocked, shadow banned, or placed in jail for simply posting your thoughts on social media? Social Media Freedom can take care of that for you. Social Media Freedom is the newest and one of the best free new apps that allows you the freedom to post what you want when you want. It takes seconds to download from your app store. Come join the tribe at Social Media Freedom. It's time to set yourself free.
The first annual Caribou Paracon is happening September 28th to 30th in the 108 Mile Ranch, British Columbia. Brought to you by the Canadian Society of Questers and Spaced Out Radio. Come listen to our featured speaker, Grant Cameron, along with Elizabeth Anglin, Paisley Town, Mike Moran, Eric Cooper, and more. It's a 3-day supernatural adventure at the Spruce Hills Resort and Spa. Tickets for the weekend are $150 Canadian. The Caribou Paracon, celebrating everything paranormal.
A timepiece is a reflection of who you are, and what better way to show off the real you than with an Escape watch? Escape is a lifestyle brand accessorizing your days and nights. Choose to escape and create the life of discovery that you deserve. Dream, play, unite with your own personalized Escape watch. Head to escapewatches.com. There is no time like the present to enjoy your escape. Use promo code SMF2017 for your 20% discount today.
Looking for a place to advertise at a very reasonable cost? Look no further than Spaced Out Radio. SpacedOutRadio.com has an advertising tab that you can click to check out our daily, weekly, and monthly packages to play on the radio, or our website including social media. From commercial spots to banners, we have it all. Check out our competitive pricing today.
Find yourself constantly looking up in the sky, looking for answers? Have you had extraterrestrial contact? Are you an abductee? Looking for answers to your experiences? Hi there, I'm R. Keith Andrews, Spaced Out Radio's resident ET expert. Join me live the first Friday of every month where I take questions from the Spaced Out Radio chat room and help you understand those from the far-off world. It's 2 hours of knowledge every experiencer should listen to. Hope to see you there.
Are you intrigued by Paranormal Talk Radio? You'll love the new Paranormal Radio app from TalkStream Live. You'll find a great selection of talk shows covering UFOs, ghosts, strange phenomena, and much more. Download the Paranormal Radio app now and start listening to the very best in paranormal talk entertainment, including the network you're listening to right now, the Paranormal Radio app, free in Google Play and the iOS App Store.
The Call of the Wild is in Vancouver. The Moose Vancouver is one of the hottest bars and restaurants in the city. Open until 2 a.m. nightly, the Moose will rock you like a hurricane all night long.
Great food with everything on the menu at $6.95 near the corner of Nelson and Granville. Get your horns up and come rock with us. The Moose Vancouver, the official rocking bar of Spaced Out Radio.
Are you an experiencer? Have you had run-ins with strange creatures you can't explain? ETs, Dogman, Bigfoot, werewolves? They're enough to scare the daylights out of anyone. Hi there, I'm Butch Witkowski from your Cop. And on the last Monday of every month, you can listen to me and the host, Dave Scott, talk about the weird and the strange being reported on Spaced Out Radio. I'm going to bring my investigations and sources, you bring your experiences, and we'll figure out the rest together. Strange Days on Spaced Out Radio. Come tune us in at spacedoutradio.com.
You hear footsteps in the empty room above you. A rocking chair begins rocking by itself. Don't be afraid of the things that go bump in the night. Reach for Spirit Storybox, the iPhone app the Huffington Post UK called the only ghost hunting app you will ever need. Spirit Storybox. The spirits are telling their stories. Are you listening?
You know, it's hard being the bad man of ufology, but that's just the way that I like it. This is Chris George Zuger, and I'll be hanging out with Dave Scott and SOR scientist Chris Cogswell for Reality Paranormal, the second Wednesday of every month. And our job is to break it down and come to conclusions as to what is really going on in the supernatural world. I'd love for you to join us and bring your questions for us to investigate right here on Spaced Out Radio.
Visit purpleplates.com today. For over 40 years, the Purple Energy Plates have been delivering amazing results for their many customers. Inspired by the great genius Nikola Tesla, the harmony, healing, and energetic effects of the plates have proven over and over to be beneficial and often miraculous to thousands of customers. Check their site for daily specials and choose from their many energy products. You won't be sorry. Visit them today at purpleplates.com.
When it comes to the news, we look for the stories that the mainstream won't cover. Welcome to Spaced Out Radio's The Encounter. This is News Director Everett Thiemer. The Encounter is about the weird and strange stories that occur daily, and we scour the world looking to bring them to you. You can hear me with Dave Scott every Monday through Friday in our Encounter news segment. Read us online at spacedoutradio.com or check us out and give our Facebook page a like at SOR The Encounter. So come give The Encounter a read.
From the mile-high state of Colorado, sharing our signal around the world, I invite you to Spaced Out Sundays. Hi, I'm Tessa Nicole Thomas, and I'm closing out the week by taking you on a paranormal journey to the world of the weird. Ghosts, aliens, psychic phenomena, I will hit it all in your questions too. So let us highlight the paranormal for you. So come join me for Spaced Out Sundays starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, 12 a.m. Eastern, only at spacedoutradio.com.
The views and opinions expressed by tonight's guest and topic of discussion do not necessarily represent the official policy or position of Spaced Out Radio, Spaced Out Weekend, Spaced Out Radio Limited, its hosts, syndicated carriers, or anyone associated with this broadcast. You're listening to Spaced Out Radio with Dave Scott. Follow Dave on Twitter at Spaced Out Radio and hashtag Spaced Out Radio, and on Facebook, Spaced Out Radio Show. Now, back to the program.
Welcome back to the third and final hour of Spaced Out Radio tonight. I am your host, Dave Scott. Thank you so much for being with us. This weekend, Tessa Nicole Thomas is back in the cabin while I am finding my zen and my chi. She's actually going to host for me on Monday night as well. So I'm going to take a few nights off. I no offense, I kind of need it right now. We get going at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern time at spacedoutradio.com. Thank you, everyone listening in on the SOR Radio Network and Deep Talk Radio. Don't forget, you can also check out our archives for free. Go to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Spaced Out Radio. Do me a favor, hit that subscribe button. Bill Cardwell has set the password for tonight in the SOR Space Travelers Club. Trinitrophenylmethylnitramine. Let's try that again. Trinitrophenylmethylnitramine. Make sure you use it wisely, space travelers, as Bill sets a password each and every night right here on the mighty SOR. Now, if you want to follow us on our website, spacedoutradio.com, we got a plethora of features for you. Rock out to Bumblefoot, shop at our Spaced Out Radio store, read up on the encounter online, and so much more. For the final time tonight, we introduce Keith Linder. He lived at the Bothell Hell House, documented everything. Go to his YouTube channel and watch some of these videos. They'll scare the hell out of you. This is real time stuff here when it comes to the paranormal and poltergeists. Keith, welcome back.
Good. Still here, still hanging here.
I want to start off with a question from our audience, from Philip, who's been waiting a while for this one. He's like, Keith, did you ever have any dangerous, non-blunt objects thrown at you, like knives?
Yeah, I had a chef knife thrown, I think, 2 times right outside my office door. They zoom by, you see the little light or flash or whatever, reflection, and one got lodged into the wall. I mean, these things are traveling, I mean, they're very fast, almost projectile, speeding bullets, and yeah, you pick up the knife, and there's only I recognize the knife, and I walk down to the kitchen, and the knife, it's not in the sheath anymore. So yeah, a knife. Candles were the preferred object to be thrown at me in the hallway. Glass candles, and these things, I mean, glass candles are relatively not a half an inch or an inch thick, the ones we had. And they move like speeding bullets, and they leave golf ball, tennis ball size holes in the wall when they hit them, and they just lodge there. But yeah, those were thrown. They zoom past you. Now imagine the listeners and the person asking them a question. You're laying in your bed and it's pitch black because it's sleeping time, and these similar objects are still being thrown above your forehead, underneath your chin. You feel them zoom by, and there's a loud crash, and you turn off the light, or you turn on the light, and there's the object that was thrown. And we all know an iron, I'm talking about the iron that sits on your ironing board. These things are relatively heavy, pointed, at the tip of it, triangle tip. Those were thrown numerous times in the room with me and Tina, in the room with me. A lot of them would miss us and hit the lamp. I could tell you how many lamps, vase lamps that got destroyed because these lamps sit by the side of our bed, and these objects go flying, and they obliterate the lamp. They obliterate anything they hit on impact. But if they hit the wall, most of them are going to be lodged in the wall. Long neck beer bottles. I'm a beer drinking guy. I like to drink, like everybody else on a good football Sunday. And, you go dump your 12 case of beer or the remainder of your glass beer in the outside receptacle. And you just minding your own business, and all of a sudden empty beer bottles come flying in your room, and it lodged into the wall. And there are photos and videos that on YouTube, and you see these markings. And one time I took a beer bottle, they got lodged into my wall, and walked it all the way back to the trash receptacle. Now, it's got a little white, drywall or whatever on it, because I pull it out the wall, and I put it in the trash receptacle. Minutes later, another beer bottle goes flying in my room. This one doesn't get lodged in the wall. It falls and lands on the floor, and I pick it up. It's the same beer bottle that I took to the trash receptacle. I know that only because of the right residue on the nose of it, or the mouth of it, and I know it because I walked back down to the trash receptacle, and the one I put in there is missing. Well, it's not missing, I'm holding it. And the trash receptacle is downstairs in the garage. My office is upstairs on the other side of the house. So, yeah, that happened a lot.
One other question that we have, this one coming from Renee. Keith, if you don't mind, and if we have a little bit of time, please explain what happened when teams like Ghost Adventures television show and the UK team found out. Did they actually help or did they not?
Well, with Ghost Adventures, I mean, people who've seen the episode, the interesting thing about Ghost Adventures is they didn't find anything while in the home. But Ghost Adventures were in the home relatively short. I mean, they investigated the house for about 5 hours. Ghost Adventures did. And if they investigated it longer, I would tell the world that they did. But they only investigated it 5 hours. And that's not a big deal because before they arrived to my house, they sent me and Tina a format and a schedule of how long they were going to be investigating the home. But they didn't find anything, and there was a percentage of the paranormal community out there that thought that since Ghost Adventures didn't find anything, that it's a hoax, that it's fake, that it's over-exaggerated. Any seasoned investigator would tell you that's not necessarily the case, especially where poltergeist activity is involved. How Steve and Dawn and Nikki Novell of the U.S. team and Mary and Kirsten Slack of the U.S. team, what made them successful compared to Ghost Adventures was the U.S. team lived in the home for 3 weeks, 3.5, mind you. And they monitored it before even living in it for 8 months. Steve and Dawn, when they came, they lived in the house for 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks, and they made 2 trips. They had a January trip of 2016 and they had an April trip. They have a documentary, Steve and Dawn, it's on AmericanSupernatural.com, the hour-and-a-half documentary of their investigation. So both teams left with treasure troves of evidence, and Ghost Adventures, as you know by the episode Demons in Seattle, didn't find anything. But poltergeist phenomena is not your typical haunted house type investigation. There's multiple reasons and causations for poltergeist activity. The main one, or the most popular one, or the most popular theory, is human agent, adolescent teenager, adolescent child, or a stressful woman. Why they pick on the women is beneath me or beyond me, but that seems to be the moniker of find a stressful woman. The activity for us, nobody could ascertain who the agent was because the activity was happening majority of the time when we weren't in the home. It wasn't happening in our place of employment. It wasn't happening when we was at our friend's house. It was happening when we were, most of the time, not in the home. You come back and your house is upside down. You go to bed, the activity erupts and whatnot. But a majority of the activity happened while we were away, and that's what led to me putting cameras in the home. But there's a proof of concept about living in the home, and that's what Steve and Dawn did. And it wasn't even a second thought for them. When they came or said, we would like to come investigate your home, after I found them, it was a given that you're going to live in the home. That was self-explanatory. Nobody, even me, was caught off guard by that, because why wouldn't you? If you're going to investigate this home, you kind of need to live in it. And they did, and the results speak for themselves. So yeah.
I want to get to Andrew's question on Twitter. He is asking, Keith, was your home located on or near any sacred First Nations land? If so, could there have been a direct correlation of the activities of your house to past traumatic events experienced by a local tribe?
Well, we thought that, Dave, because keep in mind, some of the wall writings in my office were written in Native American language. Some of the wall writings we found, some of the EVPs were Native American, like the word longhouse or long cabin. There's an EVP on my channel where Don is in the woods, he's in the creek behind my house, and he asked the question, was there once a formal Native American burial ground here? And the answer comes back, yes. There's a relatively clear yes, matter of fact. And the spirit answers it more than once. We did research the land, but the bad thing about Snohomish County is they didn't start really keeping records of land until 1973. So anything before 1973 is just lost and gone. But if you talk to locals in the area who've been here way longer before that, the whole state of Washington, and you know this too, Dave, because you live right up north of me, this whole area is rich native fertile land. It was rich back then, and Bothell and Snohomish County. That's a Native American name. And there was a tribe that lived in Bothell back then, the Duwamish tribe, the Willow People tribe, and they lived all around here. But we can't find anything tangible. But the wall writings seem to suggest some of this was Native American related, because we had a lot of wall writings in Native American language, and then some of the voices captured admitted to that. So
very, very intriguing, my friend. I want to get to this question here, and then we're going to start asking you some more about how this eventually made the decision to get out of the house. But Boris is asking, Keith, if I find myself in a similar situation, what would you say is the most important thing not to do?
Good question. The most important thing not to do is don't challenge. And by challenge, I mean verbally challenge, because keep in mind, we don't know, even to this day, we can only think we know what we're dealing with. And these spirits, if they're malevolent, they view challenge as an invitation. One of the mistakes I made halfway through this ordeal was, and I didn't know any better, but they don't care. They don't suffer fools, and ignorance is something for them to exploit, not feel sorry for, is I challenged them in the sense of I was angry and I was verbalizing, give me what you got, show me what you got. I'm not going to move, and it's me versus you. They take that, and that's a permission to not only ratchet it up a notch, but also to home it in on you specifically. There's a phase in this whole ordeal where the activity stopped happening around us and only started happening in the room I'm in. And I have to think that's because I verbally challenged them, and I didn't know any better. I was of pure ignorance, sleep deprivation, fatigue, irritation, and that's what they try to get out of you. But that's something you don't want to do. It's easier said than done. A lot of TV shows make it almost comical to where they walk into a room and try to challenge the spirit. Your listeners and everybody know that's just TV. These spirits are highly powerful. I mean, if you can lift a 300-pound armoire and toss it across the room, couch, love seat, bend metal, bend cast iron like it was a toothpick, you really don't want to be ignorant and challenge something like that. So that would be my first, I would tell people, don't do that. Yeah.
What made the decision for you and Tina to finally move out of that house? When was that decision made that you just could not take this anymore?
Well, Tina, unfortunately, Tina left a year before me, almost a year and a half before me, after her ill portrayal on Ghost Adventures. That was the straw that broke the camel's back for her. We had both taken a tremendous toll, not only by the house, but also by the fall from that episode. And we broke up. That was the nail in the coffin, if you will. I stayed in the house a year and a half after that with just me, and that made me drill down, and that's why I found Steve and Dawn in the UK, because I started living in the libraries of Seattle and learning about poltergeist phenomena. And their names kept coming up in the books that I was reading, especially Steve Mara, with their extensive background. What made me finally move out after a year after Tina was once our claims were substantiated by both Nikki and Steve and Dawn, because both teams came in and lived, and one of the things they said is they wanted to rehabilitate the case because they felt we got a raw deal by the way we was treated on the episode. But if they found phenomena themselves while here, they would do their very best to get it into their colleagues and throughout the paranormal community to say, yeah, this house has merit. Keith and Tina are not hoaxers or jinxers or over-exaggerators. And that was it for me. Once that went public, 4 years is well beyond the needed time to live in a home such as this. I felt at that point, once again, going back to your original question an hour or two ago, of wanting to leave the house better than I found it, and wanted to, when we gave the new occupants, the homeowner and the new occupants who moved into the house, we told them what we found, what the investigators found. So they have two things: what we experienced and then what the researchers found. And then they have a list of what not to do, going back to Boris's question of what not to do. Don't bring inexperienced teams in here. Don't go looking into the abyss, because the abyss will look back at you. So all of that, it just felt like it was time to go. That chapter was a high note of two teams, independent of each other, mind you, not aware of the other team's investigation. It felt that it was time to move on.
Is there activity there now?
Don't know. One of the things advised, because like I said, there's a psychological component to it. You try not to look backwards in the sense of, I never want to go back to that house. I don't want to go knocking on the door asking the current occupants, hey, are you having anything? Is anything bothering you? They know I'm really pretty much easy to find. I'm all over the internet. They were giving evidence, information, and to my knowledge, the house is docile. Now, we must understand that just because it's docile now doesn't mean it's going to be docile ever. There was subtle activity upon me moving. Right up until the day I moved, there was subtle activity. It could be going unnoticed by the current tenants. Most activity, when it's docile, goes unnoticed. Why they chose to interact with me and Tina versus previous tenants before us, outside of the ones we found, we may never know. There's a lot of theories as to why, but I think, on my gut instincts, they're just waiting their time. They're just biding their time. If these things are eternal, like I think they are, then they can afford to do that. It's not for them to rush and say, oh, it's been 2 years since we did something, we need to do something. They can wait forever. The right synergy comes into that house. The right couple comes into that house. It's game on. It was game on from us the day we got the keys to the house. The spirits, something triggered them to wake up and say, cough for a second. Your turn to cough. You cough. And it was game on. Right now, the husband and wife that lives in the house now is just them two. They don't have any children, and that's a blessing in my opinion. But it's a young house. It's got a lot of living. There's going to be a lot of families coming and going out of that house based on how young it is. It's a young neighborhood. That part of Bothell is growing. It's one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. So, yeah, of course, I hope it never is active again. I don't need it for it to be active to prove that my experience was real. But if it doesn't act up again, then that's fine by me. That's a good thing.
Is there anything that you recall about that house or interaction with spirits, maybe like the white lady, that will stick with you forever?
The gray lady and the white lady would definitely stick with me forever. The first time I saw an apparition, I didn't know what the word apparition was. I was calling the term ghost incorrectly until corrected. That's forever going to stick with me. Seeing something manifest and turn off a light literally and take off running, and then seeing it again, but this time it's all white. Yeah, that's going to stick with me. The shadow figures, it's hard to forget them. These are creatures. They're not humanoid. They're very low to the ground. They're very stealth-like. I'm never going to forget that. I'm never going to forget none of it, David. I'm never going to forget. So I'm never going to forget the kid cough. I'm never going to forget the door slamming shut. Me and Tina are having a conversation. She's in the bedroom. I'm in the hallway. And the door slammed shut to cut us off. There's a lot of things I'm never going to forget. I tried to put, and I think I did a good job of putting all my experiences, me and Tina's experience, in the book, The Bothell Hell House. Your listeners will really try to read that and pick that up because it's got everything and it's told from my point of view. So the reader is going to be on the front lines. I'm going to put you in the house without necessarily you're not going to be exposed to anything. You're just reading it from my mouth. But I'm going to take you through 4 years. The book is 4 years of crazy activity, and it's going to be a roller coaster. And you got to come up for air on a few chapters. It's going to go deep, and you're going to may walk away from it. But I think the reader who are just utterly curious based on their own previous experience or the experience of others who just want to know the truth are going to get that by reading the book, because there's video evidence, there's audio evidence, and there's photo evidence by myself and by others.
Do you look at any other property you go into now differently? Like when you move from that house, do you ask your realtor or whoever you use, is this place haunted? I mean, I don't say that as a joke to make fun, but I mean,
yeah.
I know when I moved into my house, a couple houses, after living in my haunted house with my ex-wife, one of the first questions I asked was, is it haunted?
I will now. I will. It never. I mean, when I move into the house, the first thing you're raised to ask questions about plumbing, piping, is it termites? Has it been checked for termites? Has it been the roof? When's the last time the roof was done? Now, at the top of my questionnaire is that very question, and I don't necessarily have to ask the realtor, because they can lie. I'm just going to Google the heck out of that house. I know how to go to the county records office and pull up home history and whatnot and see. There's a lot of information digitally out there. So yeah, I didn't know that then. I know that now. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment now, and I always tell myself I want to go back to the home type space. I miss it so much. But I don't want to say I'm scared, but I'm just not eager to get myself back into one.
Yeah, I can
Really
see
not.
that. Did you have any attachments follow you after you moved?
Good question. And that was my fear from moving. And that was Tina's fear as we move. Is something going to follow, especially after the previous tenant told me her son was still seeing stuff. There's nothing. There's been no breakout activity, nothing physical, nothing manifesting physically. There have been weird instances that I know are paranormal related because this happened day 1 and day 2 of moving in, but they never happened again. And that was the puddle of water, or water dripping from a dry ceiling, or water dripping from a ceiling that has no plumbing on the other side of it. And I'm an analytical guy, so I immediately called the plumbing and the building maintenance. And I mean, we went through that ceiling with a fine tooth and comb trying to come up with a reason why water would be dripping onto my kitchen table. And there was no reason. But I knew that because I've had that happen in the Bothell house. But no sliding tables or chairs or anything like that. Just like the previous tenant's son, there have been instances of shadows out the corner of my eye, just vaguely reminiscent. I don't know if that's a remnant memory, but you're looking at TV and something appears out the corner, just broadly, mind you, but you turn towards a direction and it doesn't hurry or scurry off. It just nonchalantly walks off. It just, and then you're like, wait a minute, was something there? Because, you can see quite a lot. People don't realize how much you can actually see out the corner of your eye. And you see it walk to that position. It doesn't manifest in that position. It walks to that position, and you turn in the direction of it, and it walks off. But it happens so fast, I'm just like, so, because I live in a Bothell house, and I'm trying not to wish something here. But that's about the gist of it, other than that and occasional poking and prodding, but that's about it.
We got about a minute and a half left with you. Have you dropped all of your investigation into the paranormal now? Are you trying to leave the nightmare behind?
Well, I'm a firm believer in trying to turn lemons into lemonade. The deal with me is I'm in the paranormal now. I have a lot of video on my YouTube channel, a lot of video and audio that we captured at the old house that we're still combing through by me and other teams. We find new information daily, and I put it out there, put it on my channel for others to study. I think the remedy for something like this is knowledge is power. Once I realized this was a poltergeist and realized that there is a methodology that parapsychologists use, you can somewhat quell the activity, but you just have to know what to do. Of course, I've written a book, and now I'm sort of learning about the phenomena that I experienced and that other people have experienced, and there's a lot of similarities. There's a lot of poltergeist cases out there that are not well known or well documented, but you can see the similarity or the trends, if you will. Things start off short and slow, but ramp up. So yeah, I'm that guy now. Now I'm not on a part of a team. I would never go investigate a location or a house or wear a black T-shirt and blue jeans and a flashlight. That's not me. I'm more behind the scenes, read book guy.
I don't blame you. My friend, I got one more question before I have to let you go. Please tell our audience where they can find your book, The Bothell Hell House.
Yeah, The Bothell Hell House, Poltergeists of Washington State. Easy to find, Amazon.com, U.S., Canadian, U.K., Japan, Australia, you name it, Germany, Amazon.com, The Bothell Hell House. Also, some of the evidence, a lot what we talked about tonight is on my YouTube channel or demonsinseattle.com. If you want to exercise your curiosity a little bit more, yeah, definitely get the Bothell Hell House, the book. There's a documentary that Stephen Dawn did that came out about a month ago. That's their investigation. This is just the latter part of 2016 when they investigated the home. It's an hour and a half, and that's on AmericanSupernatural.com.
Wonderful. Keith Linder, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight. Really appreciate you taking the time.
Oh, awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it. Thanks for having me. Thank you.
Thank you. Everett Themer and The Encounter coming up with Faux News Friday right now. Oh, wrong one. Let's go that one.
This is the winter of our lives. We come to play the final scene. The curtains closing in the darkness we expose what lies beneath.
Every Friday here on Spaced Out Radio, we bring in Everett Themer, our news director, our intrepid news director from The Encounter Online, for a segment we call Faux News Friday. And the reason why we do this is there's a lot of fake news out there, and we get a lot of questions about it. How do you tell what is real, what is fake? So every Friday with Faux News Friday, we are educating you. So stick around. Everett Themer, thank you so much for coming on back, my friend.
Hey, thanks for having me. I always love Faux News Friday.
Me too, man. What did you think of Keith Linder? He lived there for 4 years, man. 4 years in that house.
That's crazy. I love his stories.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, definitely. I probably should have booked him for October and Halloween.
Oh, that would make a nice night.
Yeah.
That would be fun to hear as Halloween comes up.
No kidding. No kidding. Well, now we got our hands full. We got to top that for Halloween, and I don't know if we're going to be able to, but we're going to give it our best. We're totally going to give it our best. My friend, Faux News Friday, what do we have on tap?
Well, we kind of have to take a little bit of a step back. And I don't know if you remember a couple of days ago, we talked about Jenny McCarthy
and the
video that she posted of her house and claiming that it was haunted because she heard the piano music. Well, it turns out that the piano music that she was hearing was simply her Google Home Assistant booting up.
So you reported fake news.
I kind of did. But It was real to her.
it was real to her at the time.
Well, you know what? Kudos for her for debunking that story.
Oh, no, she didn't debunk it.
Oh, who did? Who did?
Everybody that saw the video. There were dozens and dozens of comments on different posts, or different shares of the post, that people were noticing that the music was the same piano music that the Google Home Assistant makes when it initializes or boots up. As of yet, she has made no statement, and I think that shows a potential problem, both with the immediacy of social media and of somebody who's in a public profile making statements like that without having all of the information.
So old Jenny got caught jumping to conclusions.
She did.
You know what, though? Okay, if she's not a public figure, okay, because I'm on Team Jenny. She's way too pretty for my taste not to be on Team Jenny. All right? But if I'm on Team Jenny, which I am, I'll wave the flag. I'm going to say this. If she wasn't famous and just somebody, like you or me, I think that we'd give her the benefit of the doubt. But of course, now we got to roast her because she's famous. Didn't we just go over this?
I don't think it's roasting at all. I mean, are you familiar with the sounds your computer makes when it boots up?
Yes.
Are you familiar with the sounds your phone makes when it starts up?
Well, maybe she's unfamiliar with it. I'm more concerned with you hopping on the fake news like that. I'm going to rib you a little bit. I'm going to snark you here.
I know it's a little embarrassing. So we do have to kind of debunk this a little bit, and I have to put the blame on somebody else or something, because, the truth is, if she wasn't anybody famous, I think that more than likely, before they posted it to social media, they probably would have investigated a little bit rather than immediately jumping on the social media bandwagon and putting it out.
I hear you. Okay, I'll give you that one. But I'm still on Team Jenny.
It's okay to be on Team Jenny. I mean, you're wrong, but it's okay.
You're wrong. But, I mean, that's a childish debate that we can get into off the air.
Let's do that.
Story number 2, my friend. Story number 2.
Today, dozens of iconic musicians in the U.S. and Britain and around the world have been put into protective custody after being designated an endangered species.
Why?
Well, spokesman Peter Whitaker has said it's an unpleasant measure, but sadly it must be done. You know what? The fact is, these people are dying so quickly, and there just aren't enough of them to replace the ones that are dying off. And the current crop of musicians, nobody is going to want to listen to in 5 years, 2 months. There's nobody to take the place of some of these people that have died. So they're confining and corralling the existing ones. In fact, Neil Young has been put on life support system, even though he's not sick, just to protect the legacy of good music.
Well, I mean, there is something to be said about that. We definitely do need to put some of these rock stars, these aging rock stars, on ice to cool them down a little bit. We really do. Maybe cryogenics would help in this situation, because music today, man, is not very good. Not very good. Like, we were setting such a great path coming out of the 60s, even the 50s. The 50s, 60s, 70s, hairband 80s, grunge 90s, and then it all just fell apart after grunge. How do you ruin such a good thing and just have it disappear within a few years?
I think there's still a lot of good music out there. I think that the idea of the single as the album or the whole entire package has kind of moved away to the idea of just putting out a single to get popular has kind of come into play. I think that musicians have given way to performers or acts or just somebody who they have that one song, but they don't have a career in them. And then we jump on them and buy their material for a few months and forget about them a couple of years later.
Okay. Let's get to some lyrics today that Rihanna had said. Artist Rihanna had said were so deep that they actually made her cry. Come and put your name on it. Put your name on it. Okay, let's get to the solo. He want that cake, 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 cake. Oh, baby, I like it. It is so exciting. Don't try to hide it. I'm going to make you my bitch. Cake, 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 cake. Yeah, I would take...
Please stop reciting Rihanna lyrics.
No, I'm just saying that because apparently there was like 6 to 7 people who helped write this incredible hit. And in the meantime, even though they're not in the grave, people like Neil Young, Paul Simon, some great artists are just rolling over before they even get in the grave. It's terrible.
Well, then you're in luck because John Fogerty, the Red Hot Chili Peppers, Chrissy Hynde, they've all been forcibly removed from tour and put into captivity, while bands like Dave Matthews and the Counting Crows have all been hunted and killed.
Well, I'm okay with the Counting Crows because that Mr. Jones and Me song drives me nuts. And then they go and do the worst song ever. They remake the worst song ever, which was that Joni Mitchell song that drives me nuts. Big Yellow Taxi. Horrible song. Horrible song.
Some people should never have been signed.
Like Joni Mitchell. And she's Canadian.
You mean the Counting Crows?
Them too.
Look at you making fun of Joni Mitchell.
I'm sorry, man, but that Big Yellow Taxi song is horrible. It's horrible. I got tortured 3 times a day by a DJ in my first 2 years of radio who loved that song. And hearing that whiny chorus that she did, if I hear that song, I go running out of a building screaming like a banshee.
Yeah, but you guys created Nickelback.
Yeah. It was an and I will tell you this. They may be from here. Nickelback may be from Canada, but no Canadian music producer or agent signed them. They got signed in the U.S. So technically, Nickelback is America's fault.
Hey, don't blame America for Nickelback.
No. That is truth. That is absolute truth on that. Nickelback is America's fault.
Wow. There's going to be a war brewing pretty soon.
Look it up. Absolutely, look it up.
Well, the nice thing about Nickelback is that last album that they had, I heard it, and it felt familiar because it was exactly like all the other ones. I mean, they've hit that formula, and they've milked it. In fact, I swear you could sing along to the songs with never having heard them.
Well, you know what? I'm sure Chad Kroeger would take your advice and give up his $150 million bank account to go hang out in your party den right now with you talking on Spaced Out Radio.
I don't think I'm not in Chad Kroeger's league.
No.
Plus, I'm not Canadian.
It's America's fault. Nickelback is America's fault. Justin Bieber is America's fault.
Usually you and I see eye to eye on most things.
Who signed them? Who
created them?
Hey, they were just a bunch of kids jamming and couldn't get a record deal here in Canada because everybody knew it took an American producer and an American record company to get the Biebs to be making $150 million a year. and Nickelback to be worth that much.
Have you seen those pictures of Bieber?
Do not make me go Celine Dion on you. I will throw that at you. Yeah. What can you throw back at us? Nothing. Nothing.
You get credit for the Guess Who, though.
Thank you. Neil Young, Bryan Adams.
Yeah, Bryan Adams is questionable.
The Tragically Hip. Never
Fair
made
enough.
it. I'm going to tell you right now, and we'll change topics here in a second. But I'm going to tell you right now, if you're American and you have never heard the Tragically Hip, do yourself a favor. And Everett, you're a music guy. I'm sure you'll agree with me on this. Do yourself a favor. Go on YouTube or go on Spotify or iTunes and download some Tragically Hip music. Some of it you may not understand because it's really Canadian, and you're going to be like, why the hell am I downloading Canadian music with, Canadian history in it? But just let it sink in. They have the only song banned in New Orleans and most of America. Only Canadian band to have that, yes. And it's not even their fault, but like in the 90s, they wrote this song called New Orleans is Sinking, and then, of course, Katrina happens. So the song the song got banned in the United States, and you can't really blame it on that, but it's a good tune though. Very good tune.
Now, were they the ones they did their final concert, didn't they?
Yeah, Gord Downie passed away earlier this year of brain cancer. So he said that the only thing that he wanted before he died was to give Canadian music fans one final tour. So they did that last summer. God bless them.
I saw a video, I believe, wasn't their very final concert broadcast live across Canada?
Yeah, it was on the CBC. It had something like, like we're not a big country, okay? Like we're only like 36 million people up here. But this concert had something like 4 or 5 million, maybe 8 million people tuning in at one point. It was massive. Wow. Yeah. Yeah. Massive. I mean, that's the power of music. Good music. Tragically Hip. Check them out if you haven't already. Hi, Sean.
Hey, do we have time to squeeze in a quick Florida story?
Of course we do.
Well, 57-year-old Sean Killams was found by Florida authorities in the act of tranquilizing and performing sex acts on crocodiles.
What? That can't be real. Who
you
does
doubt
that?
me?
It is Faux News Friday.
And it is faux news.
Why even make is that on The Onion? Because that would be funny if it was on The Onion.
It's on Hustlers, which is about 5 tiers below The Onion. You go on their website and you have to clean your computer after you're done.
Oh,
because that you know what I'm starting to dislike about Faux News Fridays is I have to spend every Saturday cleaning out my computer from all the things I sort of pick up from all these websites.
Yes, there's a lot of malware on sites like that. Got to be careful.
There is.
Got to be careful. Got to be careful. Well, we got to do this. That's the problem. We have to do this because there are people out there, Everett, who are believing these stories.
I agree. Unfortunately, when I turn on my computer now, it smokes a little.
What is it smoking?
Oh, you know what I meant.
It's just asking a question.
But you're right. There are a lot of people out there that believe a lot of these things.
I agree. Do we got time for one more? Do you have one more?
I have several more.
All right.
What do you think about the weird stuff that happens in Las Vegas?
Makes for a perfect trip.
It does for most people.
Yes.
But there's a story going around about a morgue employee who was running a brothel out of the medical examiner's office, allowing patrons to fondle and play with the cadavers.
Bad taste in the mouth. Bad taste in the mouth. Well,
And
first,
of all,
go ahead.
Of all the stories that we've mentioned here tonight, this one is one of the ones that has been most believed. And I don't know what that says about people and their views of Las Vegas or people in general, but it is a completely fake story. But a lot of people are passing it around and spreading it as truth.
I hear you. I hear you, man. That, you know what? A lot of these morgues, they have cameras. All right? They have security cameras set up for thievery, for, operations that are going to be done, like autopsies. They have a lot of cameras set up. I'm pretty sure, if we think about it, that security cameras would be set up there and get any footage if there was anything radical like that going on.
But you said something kind of important there, if we think about it. And I think that Jenny McCarthy is the perfect example that we've kind of given up on critical thinking.
This is true.
We make the assumption, and we see the sensationalism in something, and we begin to spread it like a virus.
This is very true. Very, very true. My friend, let's get to the thought of the day. Thought of the Day happens every night at this time, where we take a question from the day, ask it to you on Facebook and Twitter, and read your responses on the air. Today's Thought of the Day: what would you do if your house was possessed by demons? Let's get to some responses. Little Marky Spender says, call Ghostbusters and kick some asses. Hold on, Mark. Aren't you a Ghostbuster? I don't know. Bill says, my former home was possessed by a demon. It was a hideous growling succubus. I got it clear of it, though. A divorce and a move. Nice. Teresa, I did when the vortex first opened up on my property. I was alone, crying and shaking. Very dark forces, shadow people, large smoky black orbs. Then I spoke to my archangels and other divine beings, and they took over and stayed there for 3.5 years. Problem solved, but it was so horribly terrifying. I can imagine. Chuck, well, there is no living with them, so one of us would have to go. So who would leave is the real question. Till it happens, I have no idea. Crystal, I had a charlatan who acts like a false prophet tell me that my house was possessed with 400 demons. Yes, 400 demons.
Wow.
I'm staying here, so I must be screwed. LMAO. This idiot still has people thinking he is psychic and can speak in tongues, which was no real language, sees ghosts and demons. He's even started getting a church congregation to believe this crap. It's disgusting. We almost need a Paranormal Crime Stoppers on this show. I know it'd be dangerous, but it would be fun.
It would be. There are some people out there that need to be called out.
Oh, I agree. Like from Wednesday night when past Saskatchewan, Corey Nagy stated that there was a paranormal team in Saskatchewan already doing an investigation where the bus crash for the Humboldt Broncos was. Disgusting. Absolutely
wow, that's
disgusting.
Low class.
Uh-huh. Then we wonder why this field can't get any traction on the mainstream level. Debbie says, I would cleanse it with everything in my armory. If it continued, I would get the church involved. Also, check with my demonologist friends. Who's really a demonologist? Shar? Call a private. EST. I'm going to say that was a little snafu on her finger typing there. So I'm going to say, call a priest. But I don't think they can possess a house. Just hang out there. Not sure. I don't really know either. That's actually a good question, Shire. Maggie, get it cleared, and if they don't behave, I will make them. I think she's going to go Hulkamania, start ripping the shirt. What you gonna do when Maggie Mania runs wild on you?
But that brings up a good point. Why is it, if there's a demon, why do people just assume that, us mere mortal humans have the power over this supernatural or religiously iconic entity? Why do people assume we just have the power over them?
I really don't know, man. I really don't know. By the way, on Twitter, Derek is making fists at me saying, Nickelback is America's fault? You've gone too far this time, David Lee. And by the way, you got snarked by Mr. Skeptic.
Oh, did I now?
You sure did. He goes, say what? I'm certain that Jenny McCarthy engaged her same vast critical thinking skills that she uses for her anti-vax rationalizations on her haunted Google thingy.
I didn't want to pull in her science denial into this. I was trying to be nice to her.
I know.
See, I was playing,
don't try and bail out of Mr. Skeptic here. He's got you. He's got you. He's got his claws into you. You're done.
He's got me, and I agree with him.
Okay, back to the thought of the Dave here. Robert, control the process of physical manifestation so I can slaughter them in physical form. Robert is Robomania. Or maybe Rob Cena. Right? You're not even getting the reference to the wrestling references, are you?
I am. I'm just ignoring them.
They're funny. They're funny. No, they're not really, but hey.
If I was 12, they'd be funny.
You're not being funny right now. Robin, I would give a bottle of whiskey to it and say, here, have a drink. Jackie, no demon would be stupid enough to enter here. And David gets the final word. I'd examine my belief in demons. Well, looky that. Looky that. So just so you all know, I am taking, once again, Monday off, maybe Tuesday. I have to go down to the coast and help prepare for, I don't want to end the show on a negative note, but help prepare my nephew's funeral. And I've been graciously asked by my sister to write his obituary, and if we decide to do a family memorial, to be the MC at that. And I would be more than honored to help my sister out with that. So there's a good chance that I'm gone for sure on Monday. I'm hoping to be back on Tuesday, and then I should be good until Thursday. And then if we decide to do a memorial on Friday, I'll be gone for Friday night's SOR Roundtable. I want to say thank you to everybody who's been supporting me through this. You have been absolutely fantastic. My family has felt the love, and we need it right now because we are hurting very, very much. So thank you, SOR listeners, all of you, for reaching out and sending your condolences, your prayers. It really, really is helping me and my family out. Everett Thiemer, thank you so much for being on Spaced Out Radio tonight with Faux News Friday. Greatly appreciate that.
Thanks for having me.
Not a problem. And we also say thank you to Keith Linder and the Bothell Hell House. Bothell Hell House. Go get his book on Amazon. That one seems like it's going to scare the hell out of you. Should have waited to have him on until October for Halloween. But nonetheless, it was a great show nonetheless. We have Tessa Nicole Thomas coming in with Spaced Out Weekend the next couple of nights. She will also host for me on Monday, starting at 9 p.m. Pacific, midnight Eastern Time at spacedoutradio.com. We got Mr. Ron Bumblefoot Thal rocking in the background with Little Brother is Watching. Bumblefoot is the official music of Spaced Out Radio, rocking us in and out of every single show. Get your horns up for the guitar god himself. Special thanks to everybody listening in at home, in your cars, at work, wherever you may be. It's been a wonderful week. Thank you, everybody on Spreaker. You were fantastic. Good to have a full house in there. And on Twitter at hashtag Spaced Out Radio. The snark was brilliant. And, of course, the Veterans Club, the SOR Space Travelers on Facebook. You were fantastic as well. Thanks for sharing the show. Thanks for telling your friends and doing your part to make us bigger and better every single night. Because together, my friends, we own the night. Have a good weekend. Mr. Bumblefoot, we need a favor. We need you to take us home. Good night.